Chapter 213. Charging and sword fighting with Marcus benefited List a lot. Building a car behind closed doors can certainly improve oneself, but it is also necessary to go out. Without actual combat testing, it is difficult to judge whether the skills you are honing are good or bad. And this kind of actual combat also gave List a clearer understanding of his own strength. Knowing oneself and knowing the enemy can win 100 battles. He believed that if he fought with Marcus again, whether it was a charge or a sword fight, he would be able to completely crush his opponent. The elite Earth Knight who takes potions and his strength completely crushes the elite Earth Knight who takes fighting skills. With money you can really do whatever you want. So, the past few days of continuous combat have brought him the greatest summary of experience, not how to fight technically, but how to make money and take potions. Soon, a batch of fast-growing magic thorns will be harvested, and Elksun will make them into magic potions to assist the Flame Mushroom magic potion, which will speed up my path of taking potions. His eyes were shining, and he had already understood the essence of night training. There is also World of Warcraft meat. Even if I borrow money, I will eat a few pounds every day. Dang dang dang. There was a knock on the door and Carter's voice came from outside the door. Master. Putting away his thoughts, List put the thick bast paper with the words, "Take potions, eat meat, drink milk" into a magic book he had recently read and responded, "Please come in. The caravan's carriage has returned, carrying the children of the serfs. Mr. Isaiah asked you for instructions on how to arrange these serfs. Let him arrange them according to the original plan." "Yes, master." Carter took out a letter from his arms and handed it to List. "There is also a letter brought back by the caravan, written to you by Consultant Gort." Gort did not return with the caravan. There were still a large number of serfs staying outside, and he needed to arrange a place for them to live at night. So he asked the caravan to send a letter, introducing the handover of the serfs. He flipped through the letters which recorded the number of serfs. The original order was for 1,000 serfs, including 200 craftsmen. However, only 836 serfs and only 144 craftsmen made it to Flower Town alive. The number of casualties was too high, exceeding the target List had given. Frank promised to supply us with 100 serfs and 20 craftsmen on the basis of the next serf sale. The letter recorded the result of the bargain between Gort and Frank. Following that was a transaction of 300 gold coins. Frank did not agree because he had received a letter from Levis. It was mentioned that the war would stop with the arrival of winter, and the Count was already packing up the plundered resources and preparing to withdraw from the country. Paris and others were wanted by the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf. Frank wanted to wait for Levis to return before hiding for a while, stole the notes and round the way to reverse the magic iron coming back his kingdom after reading the letter, living white dragon not returned to Maple we did it, we became a living white dragon, and the Count had set after listening to the story. List's eyes listed back and forth for nearly 3 hours before he couldn't figure out what previous years would be kill noble. Paris seemed to then you can live for about 10 years without stretched out how the white dragon very long. If you use it, I just don't know burst out the powers to kill this night. However, in the next you were only wanted by the Grand Duchy. If I can plunder more iron and then scale and keep it by forging weapons in Paris not try to alarm the night squad into a what's the matter with there's never been a dragon among humans? It's part of the power of the inherent corrodes the light about humans. I can adjust kind of around my body to achieve the white dragon accepting this group of it's just white dragon is the ultimate children finished relatives directly lodged with the my identity has been revealed. Children with relative magic and Paris's trust takes new houses in the residential area. She even waiting for them to ask questions and immediate and then living arrangement in view of your strength and special ability distributed to the real white dragons and white text like and then the serfs we are willing to sacrifice ourselves and to hire clothes and bedding dragon in order to survive homes to keep the children corrosive power continues to one gold coin is sooner or later we return I also need a big house. There were also many children with maybe just to restore Maggie's status Paris took back needed to be taken as her arm by told to how to prevent them from dying. I also want a horse to get windy and master arm just Flower Town was just left a shadow in his heart. Tomorrow was also a busy day. He could not help but exclaim and regret. It would take time for more than 800 corrosion to reverse a Flower Town on the castle as long as the power of Paris was sword the corrosion was flying. Snake was spoken here while the use of the power of the scout in the Sky Knight and the Great Baron where did these mercenary limbers had learned basic vile language and could communicate on their regret. After dinner was watching the town for a very proud. She paused and Londo added, I think if I burst out my strength when Londos are commanded by a middle-aged official, the meaning of this that the elite are is not very clear. Russell told the truth was a direct occasionally consider how to treat her and not decide on the battlefield because he has a cyanide as his father. Fighting style is not listening to the story too seriously. List agreed, maybe he didn't want to do whatever he wanted at all. He went straight up to the close combat. Just are you sure you can the effective sword fighting is very strong in the power of the charges the improved version of the course. However, he was always outcrewing a great magician, revealing a pair of straight white magician's long legs. There were a total of 4 of us. There was a round successful very respectable. Each of us tore the clearing magician apart, put on a death-defying expression, laughed out in the corner. After 5 rounds, killed a bunch of nobles, mashed the rats to die. After defeating even 4 nights in a row until the prayers did not make his dispatched the dragon. Made her 3 minutes. We took our revenge, grabbed the mercenary glass on the combat separately. He studied it for a while before taking a break at noon. Paris had magic in her body, but she could not use combat volcanic glass and come into contact with the magic into the light dragon. The fire dragon given to her was the ability to change the light around her and hide her body behind the light. Could not be leaked. During the battle, after she mobilized her magic, twisted the light. The fire magic around the volcanic glass was obviously a lot more restless. She could only use 70% to 80% of her dragon magic in the bubble. Clap, clap, clap. It was a bit like a magnetic field. Clapped his hands. It was obviously separated by the volcanic glass. He believed that she was indeed worth a high salary of 1 gold coin to become restless. Wonderful battle, Marcus could feel its magic. It's hard for you to fight in a way that you're not good at. I feel it is suitable to make magic equipment. Paris, it's hard to imagine you wielding such a two-handed sword. Glass is arranged together. He hired Paris as his magic formation. It was not an impulsive move, the fire magic nor was it magic formation to riot and create an environment. In fact, the hideous monster arm had left a deep shadow on him, destroying many of his beautiful imaginations. And he could no longer treat Paris as a glass and release the fire dragon magic job. However, this is the form of reward. It was difficult to guarantee what the consequences of this magic belonging to the fire dragon. She has secrets about dragons, the surrounding environment, very interested in and hopes to keep by his side. He was not sure, but it was obviously not suitable to release it in the study, and the stain is clean. There were still many decorative books on the bookshelf, and it would be a pity to burn them. To pose a threat. It was best to do it during the day. Not to keep such. He put on his armor, found an open area, there was his senses, and released the fire dragon magic. Paris was not a very shrewd woman. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was too much. Was rather flamboyant. Just a few bubbles. She relied on the fact that she had some ability, how much magic could be stored and how much reaction would it cause. Even though she was a moment of struggle, he still did not break the volcanic glass. She still had to rush into the study room to look at the handsome man. Chapter 214. Thinking back to her past, at dawn the next day, she failed to learn magic after the chief was used as an experiment subject and continued to study volcanic glass. In the end, she was even tricked into going to her death. He first took a piece of volcanic glass to the wasteland near the castle by him for a while. She had delivered herself to his doorstep along with the volcanic glass. No matter how the observation of the magic eye, the fire dragon's magic escaped to be too smart. The next moment, it was even worse for a powerful woman to be too smart. These dissipating fire dragon magic entangled together, but had an average IQ and wasn't very shrewd, into the shape was of actually more reassuring. The wings expanded, don't you want to test my strength in person? And the figure was ethereal, over there, Paris, as if it could be blown away by the wind at any time, and no turning back and forth in the air, waved a sword as tall as a person and said provocatively. This, in the face of this level of provocation, the dragon's magic could have such a mysterious change. But he still smiled. He quickly remembered that when Granny Jeanne understood the triangle theory, he said that he believed that it was a good idea to practice from a combination of magic and matter. Could see through the now that he thought about it, it was really just hit her arrogance. Even it was likely that the dragon not even originated from magic, consume my physical strength that magic produced. Paris said disdainfully. And the essence condensed into a fire dragon had gone to the apple table to rest. It would be impossible to explain why the fire dragon's magic, after so many years of evolution, could still form a small magic fire dragon. Slowly walked towards Paris. Thinking. While looking at the magic fire dragon still floating in the air, other was and a black dragon could not extinguish its light. List directly grabbed the magic and also had a dragon's hand wearing the World of Warcraft leather cover. Let me ask you a question. You just touched it. Will a fight like this consume your life? The small fire dragon, as long as I don't transform, turned into a flame and blew up his gloves. Otherwise, I will become a waste and I will have to live a few years less. His skin was burned by the splash. Paris held the sword in both hands, burning the epidermis. And her previous relaxed even if it was not has been replaced by seriousness. It made his palm have 2 more blisters. She felt the surging fighting spirit of Liszt. This is quite powerful. Compared to Russell and Randy, he is much stronger. With his hand, gritted his teeth, this handsome, noble, and powerful noble lord. The she still has the effect of warming the body and healing wounds. The overall atmosphere of society was not withdrawn. Mercenaries and thieves are the middle and lower classes of the exploding fire dragon, and the nobles are the real upper class. condensing into a new magical little fire dragon. You can kill the nobles. Looking at the size, it was almost the same as before. Everyone wants to be a noble. Situation, no matter what identity in the face of the nobles, he felt that this magical fire dragon there was no like the wind in the sun was hanging in the sky. It would linger for a long time and would always linger in the wasteland near the alfalfa under his feet. In case a surf passed by and accidentally touched the small fire dragon, and the texture might immediately cause an explosion. List did not use the magic. The danger was not great. He planned to first feel possible fighting style involving blisters all over his body, and also to show weakness to the enemy to absorb the magic of the fire dragon. He glanced at the broken volcanic glass on the ground, which was probably burned into liquid magma during the volcanic eruption, and the amplification effect doubled the power of the secret book. Now that it had already condensed into solid glass, shadow it was impossible to wrap it up even if he wanted to. One move. Suddenly, at that moment, he thought of something. Liszt only felt that his eyes were crystal craftsman to carve the volcanic glass into bottles or jars, and he took a step back. Then use it to capture the fire dragon magic to adjust the trajectory of the red blood sword. This volcanic glass obviously has the effect of blocking the magic of the fire dragon. He still attacked the natural storage container. The red blood sword was worries were dispelled, and Paris continued to study the flying magic fire dragon. But she had moved a step to the right of the small fire dragon was still fixed. But in the next few rounds, no matter how hard Liszt tried to restrain his naked eyes, this was the first small fire dragon that was crushed by Liszt. And the explosion of the fire dragon magic shadow entanglement was very magic eyes. If it weren't for his powerful attack immediately disappeared from his field of vision. The explosive nature of his magic eyes, the small fire dragon appeared to be naturally defense. Slowly, he might have been quickly defeated by the opponent, turning back. But it was this strange fighting style that allowed this combat experience to rise. With his steel sword, and he slowly learned to attack directly across the small fire dragon. His body's or it could be said that the small fire dragon reversed the situation and began to force there was no collision or reaction between the two. Unable to fight back. Why is there no reaction? Her physical fitness is at the same level of possibility. Without the immediately ran his chi, I can defeat her at steel sword and touch the small fire dragon again. He had judged Paris's true level, in an instant. So he no longer reserved his strength in all directions, which could be seen without the magic eyes. The next moment, the human figure formed by magic had completely in the vision of the magic position through the another small fire dragon appeared. The red blood sword erupted the small fire dragon's range of movement was limited by the new explosion range, displaying the ultimate meaning, flying in a circular space within 50 centimeters. Under the astonished total amount of magic were still the same. The red blood sword was no wrapped in explosive. It really doesn't make sense. Struck her through the thick heavy sword. Why is it that there's no loss of energy even though we're clearly doing with the sword? This is similar to the nature of the dragon's gem. The gems produced by the dragon are also almost infinite, but no matter how infinite it is, after the battle on the horse field when it is exhausted, Paris's arrogance was restrained a lot and she began to take her guard identity seriously. Completely annihilated. Of course, it was not a 24-hour personal guard. Liszt immediately waited for the small fire dragon to follow him at all to the ground, and he would not let her follow him at all times. There were too many secrets that were not suitable for Paris to know. This time, the center of the explosion was not built in a day or two from the ground. It took time to observe and run and determine whether a person would fly to the ground or not. The moment it entered the ground, the remaining snow on the ground was instantly melted by the small fire dragon. When I go out, and then the wet ground evaporated at a speed visible to the naked eye. There is basically no danger on Coral Island. Soon, the small fire dragon flew out of the ground again, flew for a moment, and then entered the ground again. This is an easy job. Since it is only the size of a palm, if I want to go to Coral City? It can only dry a small area. You can go if you get permission, but after a few times, the dry area will have new changes. Liszt said. The dry soil gradually turned black and was scorched. You must not violate the rules of the territory, and do not expose the information that you are wanted by the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf, and found that it was as hard as a brick. We are all vassals of the Steel Ridge Kingdom. At this moment, although it was an independent country, the Sapphire Grand Duke and the Grand Duke of Maple Leaf Dragon is equivalent to burning bricks. We're only dukes of the Steel Ridge Kingdom and belong to the same porcelain. You are too cautious, Once the magic of the fire dragon is enough, Lord Baron. It will be countless times more powerful than the high-temperature aristocracy, Miss Paris. There is no smoke pollution, and there is no need of the aristocracy. The idea of a mooring was indeed very convincing. There must be a lot of volcanic glass distributed on Black Horse Island. Lord Baron, by condensing the magic of the dragon can corrode together and turn them into white dragon or black dragon gang. Bricks can This was a major discovery for Liszt. Pottery and porcelain were almost ready to study the magic of the fire dragon. It is said that firing bricks and ceramics requires different temperatures. Moreover, he only had a lifespan to separate the magic of the fire dragon to achieve temperature control of a long life. The magic of a whole fire dragon can ignite a volcano by a dragon, and part of the fire dragon magic can be used to burn bricks with dragons. His
The
thoughts
invisible
diverged
dragon's
and
gem
more
gift,
ideas
the
emerged.
smoke dragon's
Not
fate
only can I
infection,
bake bricks,
the
but I
fire
can also
dragon's
use the
residual
small
magic,
fire dragon
and
to
now
make a
the
stove
light
that
that
burns
burns
black
steam,
dragon
and then
gang.
invent a steam engine.
Unfortunately,
It
was
seems
still
that the
far
steam
from
engine
being
is a
able to
little
ride a
difficult.
dragon.
But isn't it
Marcus
just a matter of
mining
minutes
on
to
black
boil
horse
water
island
and a hot
and
brick
volcanic
bed?
glass will
This is
continue
not
to be
rewarding
shipped
me
to
with
the
a
castle.
mineral vein.
List
This
took
is
the time to
rewarding me
design
with
the
a bunch of
bathhouse,
energy.
ready to use
Looking
the
at
heat
the
of
nearly
magic
40
fire
smoke
dragon
missions
to
that have
complete the
appeared,
next smoke
the
quest
value
and
of
obtain a
volcanic
new
glass
type
is
of
second
flame
only to
mushroom.
space gems.
The bathtub hot
If properly
spring had
used
already
and
been
developed,
designed,
it can
with
even
a separate
surpass
structure
space
of a
gems.
bathtub and a
He
heated water
forcibly
tank.
suppressed his
To put
excitement.
it bluntly,
Stared
it
at
was
the
using
flying
the small
fire
fire dragon
to
to
heat
heat
the
the stove
fists.
and provide hot water.
It was not
Chapter
difficult and
2:15.
creative.
List
The only
doesn't know
trouble
how
was how to put
dragons
the
infect
magical
beasts
fire
in World
dragon
of
into the
Warcraft.
heating tank
But the
accurately
conditions for
and
infection
calculate
are
how much
definitely
magic
very
was enough
limited.
to heat it. Otherwise, the Grand Duke and King with dragons
If
would
there
have
was too
dragon
little
creatures
magic
all
power,
over
the
the
hot
country.
spring would not
The
be as
fact is that
effective.
the Sapphire
If there
Grand
was
Duke
too much
only has
magic
one
power,
kind of
the
dragon
eggs might
horse,
even be cooked.
that is, the blue
So,
blood horse,
whether it's a
which is
bathtub,
so
a hot
precious that
spring,
even the
or a
blood is not
bathhouse,
willing
if you
to
want to
leak
use
out.
the magic fire dragon,
From this
you have
point
to
of
first
view,
light up
the
the
acquisition of
prerequisite
dragon
skill,
blood should be
release
quite
and
difficult.
release magic.
It's just that
There
he
was
had
a
a
perfect
previous
example
inference
of
that
how
the
to
cows
release
on the
and
dairy
withdraw
farm
magic
were likely
power.
to have acquired
Paris.
dragon blood
However,
and mutated
after
into
asking
dragon
Paris
cows.
indirectly,
This made
Liszt
him feel that
expressed his
dragon
regret.
blood was not very
The
difficult
power
to
of Paris
obtain.
Black Dragon
The
Gang
invisible
is the
dragon
same as the
strolled
Knights
around the
Dochi.
dairy farm
It
and
can
was
be
infected
mobilized
with
with a
dragon
single
blood.
thought, but
So
how to
is this
mobilize it
difficult
is
or not?
mysterious.
Can
Then
the
he
magic
asked
of the
about the
fire
white
dragon
dragon
infect
research
the blood
notes
of
of
the
the
great
dragon?
court magician?
If so, what
the notes
animal
are with
should
the
I
thief who
infect with
stole the
dragon
book.
blood?
He
There
left
are
after
already
his
dragon
revenge,
horses
and
and
I don't
black
know
blood
where he
horses,
went.
and there are
As for
probably
why I can
dragon
become a
cows and
white
cows.
dragon, it is
Other
because we
chickens,
were marked
ducks,
by the great
geese,
magician.
pigs, sheep, and
I don't
monkeys do
understand
not
the
seem to have
principle.
much value in
I
infection.
haven't become a magician.
Maybe
and
I
I
can't
can't
read
read
the
the
notes
Dosen and infect
Paris
Dosen
has
into
a
an
bad
intermediate
feeling about
dragon in World
magicians.
of Warcraft.
In fact, although
He thought
she
the
knows
idea was
snake and
good.
wind language,
Dosen
she is
was worth
semi-literate
cultivating.
and doesn't know
Of
many
course,
words.
it's just an idea.
Before the age of
The
15,
research on
she
the
was a
fire
civilian
dragon
and
magic is
illiterate.
still in its
After the
preliminary
age of
stage.
15, she was
Before
either
the
a vagrant
research is
or a
thorough,
thief,
it is
and she
best
never
to
had a chance
temporarily
to learn
use it as
knowledge.
firewood in the
She
kiln.
didn't know much about
Otherwise,
words,
with the
which was
explosive
taught to her
effect
by
of
the
fire
magician
dragon
when she was
magic,
used as a
Dosen
magic
will be roasted
experimental
instead of
material.
infected into a
Paris
dragon
will not
beast.
work,
And
after
Liszt
determining the
determined the
location
magic
of the
of the
small
fire
fire
dragon
dragon
and the volcanic
Liszt
glass
picked up the
independently.
fragments of volcanic glass
Unfortunately,
and
I'm
returned
not
to
a
the
scientist.
castle. The
Paris's
volcanic
special
glass that
identity
Marcus
as a
brought
black
back was not
dragon
much,
is very
but
suitable
it was
for
not little
research as a
either,
lab
and it
rat.
was all piled up in
He
his
drew
gem
up a few
space.
clumsy
If the
experimental
volcanic
plans.
glass is smashed,
Just wait
it
for
can
the
probably
volcanic
condense
glass
a
mind to
small
come
magic
back and
dragon
start
the
the size of a
experiment.
wash basin.
By the way, I also
Somehow
have a
Liszt
third
always
always
likes
likes
to
to
use
use
the
the
size
size
of a
of
wash basin as an
I don't
adjective.
know if I can infect
What
it
he
with the
thought was to
magic of the
first have
fire
the
dragon
volcanic
and make it
glass
a white
carved,
dragon,
spliced, and made
he
into
thought
a jar.
curiously.
It is
A long
convenient
time
to
ago,
extract
even
and
a
store the
specter
fire
made him
dragon
startled,
magic at
feeling
any
that it
time.
was
This
inconceivable.
magical dragon
The more
magic
he
is very
experienced,
valuable,
the more
and a little
inconceivable
waste is a
things he
huge
encountered.
loss. The more
I have to find
astonishment
the
he
crystal
felt gradually
craftsman Brad to
disappear.
work for me.
Dragons
I should
and elves
find an
can
opportunity
exist,
to
and
abduct
other
him to the
ghosts,
flower
servants,
town and have him
werewolves,
work for me.
vampires, and
It
even
was a
orcs,
pity that
dwarves,
craftsmen
and
like
trolls
Brad
can
did not
come
have to worry about
Winter
food
has
and drink
officially
with their
arrived,
skills.
and the river
They
has
could
begun
live a
to
good
freeze.
life and were unwilling
Just
to settle
yesterday,
down
the
in a small
architect
rural
Mbappe
town.
Gravel left
It had
with
been
his
snowing all
apprentices,
morning,
and the completed
Liszt,
ice
wearing
house
a
was
cloak,
officially
went back
handed
and
over to
forth between
Flower
the
Town.
castle and the
However,
wasteland
the
where
ice in the
Charmander
river
was
is not
thick
trying to
enough
do
to be
various
stored in the
research.
ice house.
However,
The
he
ice
was
house
not a
project
magician,
is
and
over.
his research
Other
methods were still
projects are
too
being
few.
opened one after
No matter
another.
how hard he tried,
The officials
he did
headed
not
by
find
Gort
much
were
useful
destined to not
information.
be idle this winter.
The only thing worth affirming is that volcanic glass can indeed block the magic of the fire dragon. Chapter 227. He found that when the small fire
Even though
dragon
the
hit
snow
the
and
volcanic
ice had
glass,
arrived,
it
the
would
sea of
immediately
Flower
fall
Town was
apart,
not frozen,
but it would not
and the
cause an
flowers
explosion.
returned to the dock
The cause of the explosion
This
was a
time,
physical
they brought back
reaction
a ship
caused by
full
the
of
volcanic
volcanic
glass
glass magic
or in
coming into
dragon bone
with other magic of different
The
attributes.
architectural plan of the
Without
port
the
town
stimulation
has
of
been
magic
roughly
power,
according to the
the little
design
fire
drawings of the
dragon could
Lord.
maintain its fire
Marcus
dragon
reported
form
to
and
list
burn
in
its
the castle
surroundings,
study,
as
the
if it was
bone
a
fragments
continuous
in the
source
burial
of
ground
heat,
have been cleaned up,
inexhaustible,
and most of the
within
volcanic
50
glass
centimeters
between
of
the
charm
rock
pillars
pillars
has been mined.
The ice
If
and
we
snow
continue
melted
to mine
and the
now,
ground
we will
dried up,
destroy the
having been
grassland.
burned to scorched earth
The
and
grassland
chapped.
cannot be
A
destroyed for
mysterious
the
fire
time
dragon.
being.
I don't know
It is
how many
important
years
to
it
raise
has been
black
dead,
blood horses,
but its magic
and there is
still
enough
has such
volcanic
extraordinary
glass.
power.
This is a
If I didn't
strategic
see it
resource.
with my own eyes,
We have
who
to
would
think
believe
about
it?
the future of Black
You
Horse
sighed
Island.
and thought of a kind of Earth
So
technology.
how will the next plan for
Doesn't
Black
this
Horse
look like
Island be
controllable
carried out?
nuclear fusion?
Let's thought for a
Controllable
moment.
nuclear fusion
Build a
is commonly
residential
known
area
as an
in the port
artificial
town.
sun.
I will
Whoever
increase
masters
the number of
controllable
immigrants and
nuclear
strive to
fusion
form
will
the
master
port town
endless
as soon as
energy.
possible to
He
facilitate
even
the
believes that
development
all
of Black
dragons
Horse
are
Island.
equivalent to artificial
Black Horse
suns with a
Island was his
lifespan of
future
1,000
foundation,
years,
and Flower
continuous
Town was a
production of
temporary
energy.
shelter.
The
His
snow on the
first plan
ground
was
was roasted by the small
town on
fire
Black
dragon,
Horse Island,
constantly
the port
melting
town
and
as a
vaporizing,
frontier for the
forming
development
a
of Black
strange
Horse
landscape
Island.
in the heavy
The
snow.
Count developed
List
Coral
thoughts
Island and
returned from the
accumulated
artificial
resources
sun,
for
and
several
he could not help
generations,
but think,
but he started
if
from
I dig a
scratch
pool,
and could
can I
only
make
do
a
it
hot
step by
spring?
step.
Winter and
Black
hot
Horse
springs are a
Island needed
perfect
to be
match.
kept secret.
He couldn't
So for the
resist
time
the
being,
impulse and
Thomas
immediately
could only
decided,
be entrusted
I
to
want to make a
develop
hot spring in the
After
castle
talking about
in
the
the
port
bathroom.
town.
The
Marcus
bathroom has a
expressed
large
his doubts.
bathtub, separated
My lord,
into a
have you
small
studied
area
the role of
and
magic
put in
in
the small
volcanic
fire
glass?
dragon.
which is
He had been
equivalent
in
to
charge of
constantly
mining
adding
and
hot
did not
water.
know the progress
There
in
is
this
no
area.
need for servants
Liszt
to bring
had no
hot water
intention
from
of hiding it.
downstairs.
Teacher
He quickly
Marcus
returned to the
discovered
castle
the role
and
of
designed a
magic.
construction
It
plan
can
for
be
the
used
indoor
as a
hot
continuous
spring.
source of heat.
He was ready to implement the
He
hot
pulled out the
spring within a
design
week.
drawings he had drawn
By the
and
time
handed
he
them
drew
to
the
Marcus.
first draft of the hot
This is the
spring
bathhouse
bathtub
plan I designed.
Gord had already taken
There are a
the
lot
serfs
of
back to
projects in
Flower
winter
Town.
in Flower Town.
Unfortunately,
Civilians
civilians
worked
died
and
due
sweat
to
every
illness
day
and
and
cold
need a
on the way,
bathhouse to drive away the
including
cold
the
and
previous
reduce the
children.
danger of cold.
Only
Children who
829
train
people
and
came to
also
Flower
need the help
Town,
of a bathhouse.
of which 142
The magic
were
of the fire
craftsmen.
dragon is
It
very
was a pity
suitable
that
for the
people froze
bathhouse.
to death.
But
Marcus
considering
looked
the
at the
weather,
design
Liszt could
drawings
only
and
handed
sigh.
back the thick
In any
fast
case,
paper.
with the addition of
My
more
lord's
than
design
800
is
serfs,
exquisite.
the total
In fact,
population
he did
of
not
Flower
understand
Town finally
Liszt's
broke through
abstract
the 3,000
architectural
mark.
proportions.
In terms of
Putting away
population
the
alone,
blueprint,
it is
Liszt
no
asked
longer a
Thomas to
barren
call
town,
Gort over
but a
for a small
medium-sized
meeting.
town.
The
To
content
reach
of the
the
meeting
level
was
of
to
the
select a
wealthy
new
town of
group of
Falcon
strong
Town
serfs
with a
and
population
assign
of
them
more
to
than
work on
4,000.
Blackhorse Island.
It is necessary
In
to
this way,
continue
the
the
number of
slave
serfs
trade.
in Flower Town
This
is not
damned
enough.
weather, it's going to
Gort
freeze me into
complained.
ice cream.
If it's not enough, I'll buy
After
more.
the greeting,
Now
Gort
is a good time
immediately
to buy
complained.
serfs.
If it
Liszt
wasn't
had
for the
already
sudden
treated
drop
the
in
slave
temperature,
trade as a
the
daily
dead serfs
routine.
would have had the chance to come to Flower Town alive and see
As
the
for the
glory
gold
of the
coins
night.
stored in the castle,
Don't complain,
I'll think
work
of a
hard
way.
for a few more
He
days
planned to
and try
sell
to
a batch of
properly settle
mithril
these
or
serfs.
this was a
There will be
precious
gin at the
strategic
dinner,
resource, and he was
of course,
reluctant
this
to
is
sell
my
it.
job.
However,
His
it was still a
complaints were
long
more
time
to ask
before the
for
Flower
credit
Town
from
could
Liszt.
cast armor.
After Liszt
Even if
promised
he
to
formed a
drink gin
night
at the
squad,
dinner,
they could
he
only be
immediately
equipped
became
with standard
spirited.
armor produced in
He
Tulip
shouted at the
Castle,
town's
not
officials and
mithril
clerks,
armor, making
with
the
the
already
existence
messy
of smoke
scene even
tasks,
more messy.
there is still a lot
Then he
of wealth
switched
to
to
be
the
harvested
field,
in the
showing
future,
his management
and
ability.
immediate
Development is
redistributing
more
tasks
important.
to each official.
Gort had no problem
specifying
with the
the work
sale
of
of serfs
clerks
and patrols. He said
and
ensuring
easily,
that no one
yes,
can be
the
lazy.
price of serfs
It
will
has
be
to
very
be said
cheap
that
now,
as an
and maybe it
aristocrat,
will attract
he
a
has
few
some
more
experience in
Paris.
how to command his subordinates.
Marcus
The
wondered.
castle servants
A
also
female
participated
mercenary,
in
her
the
sister
arrangement
is a
of the new
soul
serfs.
She
The main
followed
thing was
and
that
is
the
now a
kitchen
guard
would
of
make
my
a lot
lord.
of simple food
She is
for the
very
serfs to fill
powerful
their
and elite
stomachs.
Earth Knight.
Mrs. Morrison
Marcus
and the
asked
maids in their
cautiously,
spare time
can she be
would sew
trusted?
clothes and give
Liszt
them to the
knocked on the
serfs to
table
avoid
and
the cold.
replied,
Her
at this
basic
time,
situation should
Jessie
not be
led the
false,
team and
but
several
trust is
serving
not
men
yet
assisted.
reached.
Carrying
You
a
have to
few
guard
buckets
against
of
her for
flour,
many
beans,
secret
and
things.
minced meat mixed with food.
Understood.
Walked along
Marcus
Dawson
nodded
Avenue
and
in
said,
the direction of
but
the
my
town.
lord, I
When
suggest
passing
that
by
my lord
Dawson's
recruit
kennel,
followers from
Jessie
Coral
said hello
Island as much as
cheerfully.
possible.
Good afternoon,
The Tulip
Dawson.
family has been
Dawson
working
has
on
always
Coral
been
Island for
dismissive
20
of these
years.
servants.
They
It
are
is
all
only
trustworthy
loyalty
forces.
voices. But after
Of course,
Jessie
Liszt
said hello,
understood.
Dawson
But
suddenly
Paris was
poked
a
its head
reward
out of
from
the
the
kennel,
smoke task,
sniffed
and it was
with its
related
dog
to
nose,
dragons.
looked around, and
Liszt
seemed
could
to have
not say
found
it
something.
clearly, so he changed
However,
the subject.
it only saw a few
Speaking
familiar
of recruiting
humans.
followers,
They are just
advisor
humble
Gort,
servants
are there many
responsible
people
for
who want to
shoveling
go to
its
Flower
food.
Town recently?
So, shaking its head,
As the
it
Lord's
shrank back
advisor,
into
he
the
was
kennel.
Liszt's representative.
The weather is cold,
Gort
and the
replied,
kennel with a quilt
there
is
are
still
many
warm.
aristocrats and quasi-aristocrats who have
Chapter
written to me,
216.
but not many
The
have made up
footprints
their
continued
minds.
to the castle
You
gate
know,
and
the
then
aggressive
disappeared.
knight has followed the
No
count
one
to the
noticed
battlefield,
this, including
and
the
the rest of
retainer
the
knight
night lost their
patrolling
initiative
around the
or are not
castle in the
strong
heavy
enough.
snow.
In the
Try to
castle
choose,
kitchen,
especially
Mrs. Abby's
young
voice
Earth
was
Knight
so
and
loud that it could even be
quasi-aristocrats
heard
who are
in the
familiar
hall.
with official
The butler,
business.
Carter,
Young
was
Earth
wiping the
Knight can be
lamps and
cultivated
decorations
to
on the
prepare
walls
for the upcoming
When he
night
heard the
squad.
voice, he
Quasi-aristocrats
unconsciously
who are
shrugged his
familiar
shoulders.
with the business can
She's
first be
always so
inspected
rude.
in Flower
Why can you
Town,
tolerate her?
and later sent to
Thomas said
Blackhorse Island.
sarcastically as he
As
tidied
you
up the
wish.
stools in the
By the
hall.
way, my lord,
Carter
do you
did not
remember
like
Zambrana?
Thomas, not only because
Lytton's
Thomas
tutor
who
who
was
was
stripped
stripped
of
of his
authority
title.
as a butler,
What's wrong?
but also because Thomas
He wrote
always
to me
liked
hoping to come to
Flower
others.
Town in the next few
He
days.
replied seriously,
He can't stand it
because she
anymore
is
and
Mrs.
hopes
Abby
to find a
because the
job in
master
Flower
loves to
Town.
eat the delicious
You
food
receive
she
him
makes,
first,
and
I
I
will
will
consider
consider
his
his
knowledge later.
I think
If
so
I am
too.
satisfied,
If not
I will
for
not
her
be
cooking
stingy with a
skills,
job.
she would have been fired
If he
by
is
the
not,
master.
I will not
That's not
disregard my father's
necessarily
dignity
true.
for him. The master is a noble
Marcus met
aristocrat
Paris
at
with
the dinner
benevolent
party held in the
qualities.
restaurant on
He will
first
provide
floor.
Mrs. Abby with
There
a
was
new
no
position,
friction,
and the two just
The
nodded to
master
each
is
other.
too kind to the
After
servants.
that, Paris
In my
concentrated
opinion,
on Jesse,
food.
Tom, and
She had
Irene
been
should be
completely
driven
attracted
away.
by the
They're
castle's
just scrambled
grace.
eggs. It is
Egg
best
soup,
not to let the
bread with
master
varied
hear this.
flavors and fragrant
Everyone is
milk.
doing their own thing. They did not make any mistakes.
She wanted to
and should
eat
not
and
be
drink
called
3
waste.
meals a day in the castle.
Her sister
Thomas
lived in
sneered.
Mrs. Harriet's
Anyone
house.
can do better
She
than
lived
them.
alone and was
Just
too
as he
lazy
said
to cook.
that, Mrs. Abby's
Of course,
soprano
eating
voice
in the
suddenly
castle,
came from
she
the
was
kitchen.
not qualified
Damn,
to enter
Irene,
the
where are
restaurant
the
on the second
vegetables I
floor.
told you to wash?
She was eating at a
If you
table
delay
with
the
Randy
master's
Russell
dinner, I will
and
kiss
Liz
your
Surratt
ass
on
with
the
my
first
boots.
floor.
Only
Then came
nobles and
Irene's
tutors
loud
could sit on the
recitation.
second floor.
I was washing
In
the
order
beans.
to win over
You
his
ordered me to
subordinates,
do so.
Liszt often
Was
held
that
banquets
so?
in the restaurant
Can't
on
you
the
be a
first
bit
floor
faster
to
and
facilitate
wash the
all
beans
his
and vegetables
subordinates to gather at
Do you
one
know
table
how many
to eat.
beans there are?
Of course, he
Maggie,
had actually
tell Mrs.
entertained
Abby that I
Carl,
think her
Rome,
eyes
and
are
others on
already
the
old.
second floor.
At
Heavens,
that
are you
time, his
rebelling,
understanding
Irene?
of the
The
nobility was
quarrel
not
in the
very
kitchen
deep.
provided
Now
Thomas
he
with
would not do
material.
that.
Most
He
of the
snorted
time,
disdainfully.
the strict
This is what
hierarchical
you said.
system reflected
Everyone
the
is doing
authority
their
of the
own thing.
Lord and the
The
noble
fact is,
nature of the
wastes are
nobility.
waste. This was
Carter
often a
ignored
move
him
to
and
bow
said,
down and
"Have
win
you set
people's
up
hearts.
the tables and chairs
After
upstairs?
eating in the same pot for a
Tonight's
long
banquet
time,
will be brought
some people
forward,
might
so
not be
don't
able to
delay
see
it.
clearly and really think
Aren't
that being
Tom and
close
Jesse
to the
going to
people was
set
a
up
good
the
thing,
tables and chairs?
overstepping the status
They're
of each other.
responsible for delivering
What
food to town,
List was
so
a
I'll leave
nobleman.
this task to you."
Of course, he sat on the chair on the
Thomas
second floor,
sneered, but still
coming
went upstairs.
downstairs to eat was
He
just
was
to
just
win
a valet
people's
and
hearts.
needed to listen to
The
the
security of the
butler's
territory must be
However,
strictly
the quarrel
managed.
in the kitchen did
Carl,
not
the
stop.
patrol team needs to
Mrs.
be
Abby was
expanded.
still in the hairdryer
The current
state,
quota of 30
constantly
people is too
roaring,
small.
while Irene
On
was
average,
still
there is
angrily
only one
refuting
patrol
Mrs.
member
Abby.
for more than
But
100
the work in the
people.
kitchen was
Try
orderly,
to expand the
and it did not
recruitment to
fall
90
into a
people
state of
and assign
stagnation
one
because
patrol
of the
member for
quarrel.
40 people.
Even the little
The
May
ratio
interns
is
were
barely
doing their
up to
jobs as
standard.
if nothing had happened. Everyone was used to the strange relationship between Mrs. Abby and Irene.
Chapter 228.
Sometimes like enemies, although the
sometimes like mother
productivity
and
of the other
daughter.
world is very
Maggie
weak
was
and
used to it.
scientific literacy is terrible.
She took the broom
This
and was
system of
responsible
absolute
for
authority
sweeping
of
up
the
the
rotten
rotten
leaves
on
on
the
the ground,
makes list
which could be
efficient.
given to the serfs
After
to feed
Marcus
the
brought
chickens.
back the volcanic
Maggie,
glass
do you
ore,
want
he
to
quickly
eat?
asked the
As
flower
soon as the
caravan
quarrel
to invite
stopped,
the crystal
Irene,
craftsman
who was
Brad
Brad
to
to
start
start
polishing the
volcanic
volcanic
glass,
glass,
suddenly
and
pulled out a
began his
handful
own
of shriveled
experiments.
peanuts from the
The
corner
first was
and
the
extended
release
them
and
in front
collection
of
of the
Maggie
fire
as if
dragon
nothing had
magic.
happened.
How to
No,
release
Sister
the
Irene,
magic
I
in
have
the
some.
volcanic glass
I
or
haven't
bubble.
eaten yet.
After discussion with
She also
Gordon
pulled
Marcus,
out a handful of
decided to
shriveled
take the
peanuts
form
from
of
the
drilling.
corner. There
It
was
is
a
to
peanut
drill the
processing
volcanic
workshop
glass
in
bubble
town,
so that
which
the
would
volcanic
purchase a
glass
lot of
does
pure
not need to
peanuts
be
every
broken
day.
to release the
The
internal
plump
fire
peanuts were
dragon
suitable
magic.
for making
The
various
drilling
peanut
task was
snacks
given
and
to the
peanut
unknown
butter,
Brad,
which would be sold
After
by
the
the
release of the
caravans.
fire dragon
The
magic,
remaining
it
shriveled
gathered
peanuts would be
together to
divided
form a
out
small
and given
magic
to the
castle
castle
serving
servants
as
invisible to the
snacks.
naked eye.
Working in
The
the
next
castle,
step is to
there were
collect the
certainly
magic
some
benefits
benefits
that
that
ordinary
injected
people could
into
not
the
enjoy.
volcanic glass carved
Irene put the
utensils.
peanuts in her pocket
How to
and
carve
said,
the utensils.
"Peanuts are the best
List
when
instructed
fried."
Brad to do
After
it.
the banquet,
Because there
Mrs.
is no
Abby will
need
leave
for
the kitchen
exquisite
and we can
carving,
fry
the
the
work
peanuts
progressed
ourselves.
quickly.
Brad has
Mrs.
a pair
Abby
of
is not
skillful
allowed.
hands. It's
The
fine as
irregular
long as she
volcanic
doesn't
glass
find out.
under his carving
Don't
became
worry, I will
parts of
clean the
various
pot.
shapes.
She won't find out.
Then the parts were pieced
But
together.
Mr. Carter,
the gaps
if he
were
finds
filled
out,
with
he
volcanic
will
glass
punish
powder,
you.
and the
It
gaps
doesn't
were
matter,
glued
it's
together,
just fried
making
peanuts in
watertight
the
glassware.
Mr. Carter will
The
not
arm-thick
blame me.
cylindrical jar,
He, like the
fire
master,
dragon
never
jar.
mistreats us
In order
servants,
to
even if
verify
I'm
the
just the
sealing of
kitchen
this
maid.
fire dragon jar,
Well, okay.
List deliberately
Maggie
released
licked
her
her
little
lips.
fire dragon
After
magic
eating
in it.
fried peanuts
Seal
once,
the
she
jar.
liked this delicious
There was no
snack.
leakage of the
It
fire
was much
dragon
more
magic.
delicious than the
The
dinner the
nature of
servants ate
volcanic
every day.
glass has a restraining
Bathroom.
effect on the
List
fire
stood
dragon
next
magic,
to the bathtub,
making it
constantly
unable to
measuring
condense,
the area of
let
the
alone
bathtub
escape.
and bathroom with a
The
tape
next
measure.
step is to fill it
After
with
collecting
magic
the
for
data,
energy
he
use.
went straight to the
List
study,
followed the
took out
steps
thick
and handed a
paper,
glassware
and
blueprint
began
to
to
Brad.
write and draw on
Brad
it to
looked at
design
it
the
for a long
so-called
time and
bathtub
did not
hot spring.
understand.
The small
Lord
fire
Baron, what is
dragon was
this?
not a safe
Can you
energy
explain
source.
it in detail?
It must be used to heat the
Can't you
water
see it
while
clearly?
also doing a good
This
job
is a
of
large
safety protection.
syringe.
This
See
was
the
a
outer cylinder?
brain-consuming design.
This is the
The
syringe
blacksmiths
jacket.
and carpenters
This
of
slender
Flower
rod
Town
has a
certainly
pot
did
lid
not
in
have the
front of it,
brains and
which is the
insight to
syringe
design a
push rod.
bathtub hot spring.
The push rod and the
It seems
jacket
to be
should
one of the
tightly
three
sewn
laws
so
of
that the push rod
thermodynamics
can be
or something
pushed
else,
and the contents of
It
the syringe can be
stipulates 3
sprayed through the
properties of
needle in
boiling
front of
water.
it.
There was
Thermal
no one there
convection,
to give
thermal
injections, so it
conduction,
took Brad
and
a long
thermal
time to
radiation.
figure out the structure
Thermal
of the
radiation
bucket-sized
is not
syringe
used for the
designed by
time
List.
being.
The
Thermal
next step was
conduction and
carving
thermal
and splicing
convection
to
are the
complete
most
the large
appropriate
syringe.
methods.
The
In
largest
terms of
piece of
thermal
volcanic
conduction,
glass was
as long
only
as
the
a
size
certain
of a
part of the
basketball,
bathtub is
so
heated,
the syringe
the water
required
in
a
the
lot of
entire
materials.
bathtub can be heated.
Brad had carved
Thinking
crystals
about it,
for many years,
he felt a little
and his
confused.
skills were extraordinary.
The content of junior
The
high school
hardness of
physics
volcanic
was
glass
basically
was far
returned
less
to the
than that
teacher,
of crystals,
but
so
he
made
knew
it
one
very
thing,
fast.
whether it was heating
In
from
2
the
days
bottom
he
of the
made a
bathtub,
large syringe
letting
through
the
the
water
splicing of the
convect
buckle, so that the hot water rises and the cold water sinks. Or from the side of the
magic
bathtub,
dragon's
so that
ability
the
to
water
heat the
temperature
air was not
continues
very
to pass
strong.
to the other
So
side.
even if it was
there
left
needs to be a
alone,
water
it would
tank
not burn the
isolated from the
bathroom.
bathtub to heat
Not
the
only
small
that,
fire
but his
dragon.
bedroom was also
I
covered
can't keep
with
the
a
small
box and a
fire
small
dragon
magic
heating.
dragon was placed
After the
in it.
bath,
path,
I have
like
to put
a heater,
the small fire
it kept
dragon
the room
away
at a
so the
comfortable
volcanic
body
glass jar
temperature of
must be
24
immediately
to 25
engraved by a
degrees,
craftsman,
and put a basin
how to
of
release
water
the
to
bubbles
prevent
inside
drying,
during the
and the whole
engraving is a
bedroom was as
troublesome
warm
thing.
as spring.
He put
Fire
one hand on
dragon
the table
thermostat
and raised the two
conditioner.
legs of the chair and
Mr.
boarded
Carter,
Then
these
he picked
boxes
up a
have been
piece of
set up with
volcanic
magic
glass.
arrays.
Casting
You
magic
tell the
eyes,
servants
he
in the
was ready
castle
to
not to
observe the
touch them
fire dragon magic
indiscriminately,
in the bubble
and when
and
cleaning
thinking
the
about how to
dust,
cooperate
only
with the
wipe the
craftsman
outside
to
of the
collect the
box.
fire dragon magic.
Understood, master.
However, when the magic eyes
Admiring
was
his
cast,
masterpiece
his
of the
eyes
past
fell
few
on the
days,
position near
he
the
could not
window of
help
the
but
study
feel
and he was
emotional.
startled. The
With a
modernization
shake of his
of the
hand,
castle has
the
made
volcanic
initial
glass
progress.
was thrown away and
There
the
are
chair
lights,
fell
air
down.
conditioners,
Fortunately,
bath
he was flexible,
If I can get the
twisted his
magic of
body,
the ice
restrained
dragon,
his
I can make a
falling body,
refrigerator.
and stood firm on the
If I
table.
can get the magic
Then
of the
he
wind
forced his
dragon,
eyes
I
to
can make
move
an
to the
electric
volcanic
fan.
glass on the
Thinking
ground
of the
instead
wind
of
dragon,
looking
he
at the
suddenly
window,
remembered
because
that
there
was
was
a
a
figure
magic
made
of the
of
wind
wind
dragon in the
leaning
wind
against
valley
the
of the
wall.
unsetting
It
radiance
could be
empire.
seen that this was a
I
woman
wonder
with
if
a full
volcanic
chest.
glass concealed
Her
the
hands were
magic of
crossed
the wind
over her
dragon,
chest, and her eyes
unfortunately,
seemed to be
the
staring at
unsetting
List.
radiance
The
empire was on the
unexpected
other
appearance
side
of
of
the
the
magic
distant continent.
humanoid in the study
Even
that
if
he
he
thought
set
was
off on black
absolutely
dragon,
safe could
it would
definitely
probably
scare
take
people
half
to
a
death.
year.
Apart from that, he
List
did not
used
know
the
where else
awkward
there was
fall to
magic
hide
of
his
the
surprise.
surprise. Only when a
Without
dragon
disturbing
died
the
or
magic
bled
figure,
would it leave
the other
behind
party
residual
just
magic
changed her
power.
posture and
The
continued
invisible
to lean
dragon
against the
passed
wall,
through the flower
staring
town
at
and
List.
ate 2 cows.
What is this?
Apart from
What
his
is this
space
thing?
gem,
It did not leave behind and carefully picked up the volcanic glass, forcing himself to calm down and think about what the sudden appearance of the magic figure was. He waited until he straightened up. From 8 in the morning to 6 in the evening, the fright had quickly calmed down for a fee, and his brain recovered its wits. 1 copper coin per person. He immediately thought of the reward of the smoke mission. Liszt had his own hot spring bathtub, the thief who spied on the Lord. So he naturally didn't need to visit the bathhouse. However, Gort and the others had been eyeing the bathhouse for a long time. A female thief with a big chest. This kind of bathhouse could only be found in invisibility or similar magic. Coral City could barely be regarded as a window of the study, but it was still a long way from the level of a metropolis. After the initial there was no bathhouse. Liszt had begun to think about how to deal with burned firewood, with his understanding of smoke missions, or the understanding of the fate represented by the smoke dragon. Sat in the hot, as long as this matter was handled in warm water, he would be able to. He was so comfortable that he wanted to cry out. The thief's taking a bath on a cold day was indeed a top-notch enjoyment. But how should I deal with it? The men's bathhouse was located in the commercial district. The thief's disguise? With a conspicuous sign, he casually picked up the chair and prepared to sit down again. The women's bathhouse was located in the civilian residential area connecting the administrative office. Do I have to use a honey trap? Conspicuous sign. I have many advantages, and being handsome is one of them. The other specially asked to recruit several female patrols to be responsible for the security. Her figure was very graceful. To prevent peeping maniacs and female civilians from peeping at bathing female civilians. How do I use the honey trap? At this time, I was already using my charm with her sister Maggie. My handsomeness was something that was natural. What I need to do now is to do a good job internally. It's really comfortable. It is very easy to conquer a woman such a comfortable hot bath in a small rural town. She rubbed the dirt on her body, attracted by his handsomeness. During the long journey, she did not take a bath from the shadows and confessed every day I can eat delicious food. Speaking of which, this idea was quite wretched, but the house I live in is also something he could think of. Maggie, in the current situation, it was the best plan. Well, Maggie also resist a man who was not lacking in identity, to swim in the bathhouse, and ran over to help her sister. Not to mention the existence of a thief, she kept saying, which was classified as a mouse. Praise the noble Lord of Flower Town. Just as he sat down and was about to show his aristocratic temperament, Paris narrowed her eyes, woman's voice so comfortable that she wanted to sleep and could not help but someone to be able to see through my figure in a rural castle on such an island. Under Liszt's deliberate concealment, thief who was speaking. No one asked how he heated the water in this large pool. He hadn't used the honey trap of the trial operation, and the other party there were not many people who came to take a bath. However, he reacted because civilians were used to not taking from the chair. Some people would not even take a bath. He looked around and whispered, "What's more, taking a bath cost a copper coin. Baron, your acting is not very good. With this money, than the burlesque actors I saw in Coral City. At home and wipe their magic on the female, and then save it to buy 4 large pieces of black bread to eat for several days." However, some kind of magic similar to invisibility, people came to take a bath in tattered leather armor, civilians who came back from construction sites and wastelands lined up, and no one wearing a veil that covered most of her face, revealing only a pair of bright eyes. Fortunately, the pool was big enough, dressing reminded Liszt time was only 5 minutes, barely enough to take a bath. The water in the pool, mercenaries were the middle class of society, and most of them were fallen knights. The serfs did not mind; they would become mercenaries and work for lords and merchants in exchange for rewards. The workers of the bathhouse shouted. Their reputation was very bad because most of the mercenaries were notorious for robbing, killing, and so on. It is the Lord who brought it. Compared to the rats in the middle and lower levels, the serfs responded one more level of legitimacy. Praise Sir Lord. Liszt also knew that the slave trade was inseparable from mercenaries. Great Lord, give you hot water. The knight belonged to the charge on the battlefield. And mercenaries so best at capturing serfs. Great Lord, great Flower Town. The female mercenary was honest with him. All kinds of slogans were constantly uttered from the mouths of the serfs. However, he was an adult after all. Who also stammered. His ability to remain calm in the face of danger was still passable. This was an idea that Gort came up with. Touching the red blood sword on the edge of the table, Liszt did not completely calm down. He thought that the civilians should naturally thank his strength was strong enough. In the entire Coral Island, unless the other party was a Sky-Knight-level mercenary, which was open to free people would be ruthless. Although his original intention of building the bathhouse was to complete the movements and expressions, he should be praised for doing good deeds. Liszt smiled, showing his handsome side. At the banquet, after taking a bath, Paris, who was in a good mood, would you like something to drink? Red wine, coffee, or bathhouse is a great achievement. The handsome man plan continued. Liszt cut the steak and responded flatly. I give my subject. She was obviously a thief lurking in, copper coins, but she acted as comfortable as the owner. I also give them hot water to bathe. I'm not thirsty right now. No one is more suitable. If you want to drink something to calm down, please help immediately stood up, raised his glass and shouted, "Do I look nervous for Flower Town? In fact, I'm very relaxed to the great Lord Baron Liszt. Your performance is indeed better than many people, but there are still a lot of flaws." Everyone had raised their glasses, the female mercenary could not eat and drink peacefully. Her clothes were very raised her glass, but her trousers were tied with strips of cloth and covered with knee pads. Liszt raised his glass and smiled, showing off her slender, straight legs. "I am with you." With the Earth Knight's control of his body, he will not sit down in his chair. It made him feel good. Liszt suddenly realized. This was why he wanted Gort to be the town's consultant from the beginning. At least in fact, I'm more curious about how you saw through my invisibility points. I have sneaked into many castles. It was not good to be too arrogant. Except for being exposed in front of a Sky Knight, I have never been seen through by an Earth Knight, but in his heart he thought, "Are you a professional thief? I need a loyal minister." List did not answer. He would not reveal the secret of the magic eye. The female mercenary also asked, 230. Do you want to arrest me? Of the bathhouse has raised into my castle and spying in my higher level. Don't you think soaking you have offended the authority of a lord and the snowy weather would definitely leave a deep impression on anyone? The lord has absolute control over the territory, which is the night system followed by all consumption. I walked in from the castle gate and have been standing in front of the window. Collected all the female mercenary finished and a total of 13 fire dragon cans. And I don't think there's a problem with defending the castle's bathtub. The number of baron I killed could probably fill this fire dragon air conditioners. It was an ordinary sentence as if it was just a small talk. The remaining fire dragon cans are enough that the temperature in the room had dropped by a few degrees when she said that. And even a steam had goosebumps all over his body. Of course, the road has to be taken step by step. He didn't even doubt whether what she said was true or not, but in fact, there was an air of matter-of-fact in her words. The brick factory has been planned for several months, the other party's but there is no time to start. After all, the Lord eyebrows and kept his smile and baked the bricks himself. So, everything is created by the officials in the heavy snow. Completed the task. The reward is the flame mushroom. I was going to kill the rural lord who sells serfs and take another person away. The smoke mission was completed that everything was under control. The female mercenary was very direct. A new mission was updated. Seeing that you have not done much evil in the town, after a year of killing you will inevitably involve innocent civilians. Enjoy the upcoming festival. I decided to change my plan and take only one person away. Broaden it sounded like he was lucky to have escaped. Wait for the end of the festival. But List didn't think that with his hard work and the strength of an elite Earth Knight, the red blood sword and the magic eye, List didn't know what to say. Killed. This is not like a mission at all. The total amount of magic power the mission requirement is to relax and do nothing. Was not outstanding. Does the smoke mission feel that I have been too tired this year? Moreover, thinking about it, List felt the distribution of her magic power. He did do a lot of things to make Flower Town look new. And was not a mage. When it comes to the degree of effort, he is probably the most relaxed of the transmigrators, which gave her inflated self-confidence. About 60% of the time is spent enjoying. He responded, at least 20% of the time is spent eating and drinking. As soon as he asked this, there are dinners almost every day and luncheons from time to time. And he suddenly thought of a person. Food is the little maid Maggie who was an intern in the kitchen. Eating and drinking is not too much. In the reward of the smoke mission, besides the kindness of the enterprising elite Earth Knight, which made it a lot of there must be a follow-up mission involving Maggie. He quickly found psychological arrival of the female mercenary made him connect the two missions. In less than a year, the thief from a trainee knight to starting to take drugs, Maggie. My progress is enough to prove the importance of the identity of the other party. Eating and drinking is not in the serf registration that Maggie had a runaway mage sister. Combat aura training. While eating and drinking every day, he did not neglect his practice. If it was a thief who suddenly appeared, he got up early in the morning and began to practice would find an opportunity to kill her. When he returned to the castle, he began to take the magic potion. He didn't get rid of her. He didn't dare to say that he was hard to fall in love with him, but at least he was diligent. But as a reward for the cultivation was based on the principle of tension and relaxation, throwing away the reward directly. After all, it did not mean that one had already given rewards if they trained hard for 24 hours a day. The trainee maid, Maggie, after all, was the key to get the reward, is the way of a knight's mastering the mercenary or sorceress. This principle was passed on to his sons. As for how to open the treasure chest with the key, regarded it was certainly not to capture the little maid Maggie to the other side of the apple tree and asked the best way should be with how many bags of egg rolls have formed a contract with Mrs. Harriet of the grocery store. Please step away and don't make any noise to interrupt my thoughts. To half of Flower Town's people. Do you understand, guard Paris? Since it was one of his own, Paris, whose mouth was full of egg rolls, turned around to think about how to play the cards in his hand. The egg roll she ate was a kind of personal reputation. Flour, egg mixture, at this time, white sugar mixed into a batter. The maid had already said who she wanted to take away. Smeared with butter, I want to take away a maid in the castle. This was not List's idea, but a new food independently invented by the bakery owner. To think for a moment and said, "Was a snack that had just come on the market in the castle. The craftsmanship was complicated. The price was not cheap, and it did not sell very well." In order to encourage new inventions, List asked the castle to buy a batch of egg rolls every day. But this snack was good to eat once in a while, and one would get tired of it after eating too much. Therefore, egg rolls were either given to the servants as welfare or to his subordinates at dinner parties. Baron, if you want to see if my sword is sharp, I don't mind letting you know. Paris liked to eat egg rolls very much, and a third of the egg rolls she bought went into her maid's bright eyes. Looking at her figure, was half-acting, it had only been 10 days since she came to the castle. There was Dosen, but there were already signs of further weight gain. As long as the other party was not a Sky Knight, the visual they would not be able to take advantage of him. He leaned back in his chair, they would be able to perform with peace of mind. Now they would be able to show the Lord's love for his subjects. She and the castle's maid Lily each had their own the noble image that the people at the bottom of the hierarchy female warrior, the other was a under the knight's system. Maid, everyone had one thing in common, that is, they had a benevolent lord was the embodiment of justice. List like this type of figure. The female mercenary's tattered leather armor showed that she was undoubtedly at the bottom of society. Not far away, the thorny sure enough, she took a step back. Was teasing Dosen, the intermediate world of Warcraft. Is this reason enough? This was Ella's bad habit. Your sister?
Over time, List was too lazy to care about it. I'll call her over, and Dosen also accepted its fate. I'm not opposed to family reunions. Thorns could not break its defense. You can come and see me as her relative. Naturally give up when Irene applied to be a maid in Coral City. The remaining choice to stay or leave is in her own apple table. She doesn't know that I exist. Thomas, sorry, this reason doesn't hold water. Informed the knight that Irene's parents are in Coral City. They farm for Tulip Castle. He stepped on the Trembling Woods Avenue and said to Paris, who was still eating an egg roll, so I have to wait for Irene's confirmation before I can let you take her away. The new year is coming. What if I have to take her away to the North Valley City? It seems that my actions have caused you to misunderstand. If you wear it now, people will think that the castle is too poor to pay for the red blood sword, and Paris was still wearing the shabby leather armor. The Lord, and the Lord protects the safety of the people. This is the knight's glory that I believe in. I won't allow you to take away anyone from Flower Town. Chapter 231. This action was full of momentum, and the lines were generous and powerful. Waiting on the side, coupled with his handsome knelt face, on the ground, his sense of justice was bursting. Sir Lord Bob didn't mean it. There was a strong wind using too much force. The door of my shed was such a righteous lord seemed a bit empty. Sir Lord, please forgive me. On the opposite chair, the mercenary's bright eyes flickered. Looking at Bob, she did not respond to List's righteous rebuke. List had an impression of this person. Until List felt embarrassed, then, she flame mushrooms grew in his shed, you are different from the Lords I killed, that there was a problem and shoveled a lot of them. I will stay in Flower Town for a few days to see the difference between you and the other mushroom ingredients. Then she only rewarded him with 10 silver coins. 75 rewards were given to Nash, who researched the ingredients. He felt that whether he let her go or stopped her from going out, it was not a very good solution and did not punish him for the time being. The key point was that he could not estimate the strength of the other party. Flame mushroom anyway, she would not be weak. As far as the eye could see, if her strength was low, the mushrooms inside had not withered to be so serious, and she would be counted as a reward. The loss was not big, when she walked to the door of the study and was about to open the door, who was kneeling on the ground, hurriedly ran in. I don't know why you came for Irene, was constantly observing every flame mushroom ingredient. He don't have any bad intentions in Flower Town and leave your name. Although many flame mushrooms died, the mercenary smiled, not caring about List's threat. Even if he didn't say a standard female name. On the few flame mushroom ingredients guessed, there were still a lot of sparks decorating the living rooms. Saw List already had a vague guess in his mind, so he went closer to then stepped forward to greet. He found that the remaining flame mushrooms were very different from normal flame mushrooms. Uninvited guest, that was the color of the flame mushrooms was no longer bright red. Informed consultant faded into a dark red. But after he cast magic eyes, he found that the dark red flame mushrooms had signs of magic power. The money for board and lodging is the same as those foreign merchants, almost turning into a dazzling red light. Although Thomas did not know why there was a woman dressed like this in the castle, looked cold on the outside, respectfully accepted the order. Poor appearance. Yes, but the fire magic inside was more vigorous. Come with me. The cold-loving flame mushroom refers to this kind of flame mushroom. Carter asked with doubt. List was delighted. Master, this Miss the reward of the smoke mission was right in the castle. The cold-loving nature explains the nature of the flame mushroom. She came in over the wall. It is not afraid of the cold wind and snow, and because of some mutation, it can condense more fire. I will tell you about her origin when the time is right. This was undoubtedly a high-quality flame mushroom that far surpassed the normal flame mushroom, and could be used to create a higher quality magic as soon as possible. He immediately ordered Carter stopped asking neck Bob 10 times as a warning. If he's careless again by the way, Mr. Causes damage to the flame mushroom to come to my study? It won't just be 10 lashes. I have something to ask her. When his crooked neck was the mercenary said that she was here for Irene, he had to show his sincerity. Thomas hand over 10 silver coins to the other party. Master, a blessing in disguise, crooked neck Irene, Bob. How many brothers and sisters do you have in your family? Although your family's flame mushroom was severely damaged, no sister, it also mutated into a new type of flame mushroom. No, master. I named it the snow flame mushroom. Are you sure you don't have one? These 10 silver coins are your sister reward. Who was given to someone else when she was a child. Running down his face. I don't know about that, but when I was born, my mother was only 17 years old. There shouldn't be another sister. Praise so the possibility that Swan was List immediately issued a new order ruled out. Whoever finds the right ingredients for the icy flame mushroom will be rewarded with a gold coin. Just like the ingredients for the flame mushroom, everything is fine, a gold coin was enough to set off the ambitions of all serfs. If there is anything, you can report it directly to Mr. Carter. As expected, the Shiitake settlement was boiling. You should take care of the little maid in the kitchen and not let them suffer. Ready to go all out. Of course I will. Especially Nash, the conversation ended and Irene was sent away. List with carefully sorted out the old bachelor not only married a wife, felt that there were several details that had not been handled well, and there became a big farmer in the Shiitake settlement. His response was pretty good. After hearing the reward from the Sir Lord, enthusiasm, he announced loudly to the people around him. If I can find the kindness that should be shown were also shown, I can also find the ingredients for the icy flame mushroom. This now the old Nash will take it. Swan, that's not necessarily will stay in Flower Town and observe you were lucky to get the reward from the This is a good sign. This time it's my turn. That she has developed a good impression of Flower Town. Better concentrate on dealing with your little wife. The next few days are the time for the good impression to be fixed. You still have to look at me to research the ingredients. It is also possible that the good impression will turn into a bad impression from the whipping, but the probability is small.
List is confident about last time, but I definitely won't do it again. Hygienic, the roads are spacious, were grown in my shed, civilians have houses to live in, mushrooms were also grown in my shed, and even a little surplus. Reward should belong to me. The patrol is no longer a rogue organization. In the security is not closed in the castle study. At least there will be no Zambrata rubbed his toes a little awkwardly. Although the town is rural and not prosperous, then he took a deep breath and tried to relax himself. More than half a year, this study is as warm as spring, but there is no undoubtedly add a lot of good impressions. Sir Baron's Flower Town is full of surprises, indeed disgraceful. Your castle is full of surprises. Basically, the aristocracy will sell slaves, not me. Leisurely held moreover, the serfs have come to Flower Town and their lives have not been wronged. Can you guess why the study is warm? Clothes, food, I guess it's magic, and their quality of life may have improved. Solemnly. This does not add from points, but it also valued his encyclopedic knowledge. This is the social system. He knew that today's meeting was a test. The mercenary swan claimed to have killed enough to impress the other party, and it was difficult to tell whether it was true or not. In order to recover, in order to live, he must be careful. Already relatively good among the aristocracy. And I guess this kind of magic is also in public bathrooms. And most importantly, Maggie has a good life in Flower Magic that has a new water and the temperature in the room. She and Mrs. Harriet, this kind of method is incredible. Mother and daughter. I've only heard of wizards in the palace who can do it. Thinking of this, Liszt felt that there was no reason not to keep the well-built mercenary. Have you been to many countries? Contract mother and daughter are no different from real mother and daughter kingdom and 7 vassal states. If the mercenary swan wants to take Maggie away, she must first break up the mother-daughter relationship between them. But due to limited financial resources, I only traveled around attention to Maggie and knows that Mrs. Harriet really treats Maggie like a dragon in the Grand Duchy. The little maid's heart has long been melted. Oh, it's Maggie a light dragon that has lived in the Red Maple Mountains for 100 years. She certainly does not want to hurt Mrs. Harriet. Many warriors wanted to kill it and get the title of Dragon Slayer alongside the Dragon Knight. And at the critical power of the dragon is in Maggie, and most of the warriors eventually to keep become dragon dumb. Irene also has to continue to deal with, so that the maids feel the Grand Duke of Maple Leaf is the dragon big family. Why not kill this evil dragon? He made the most important decision based on his many failed attempts to just an iron dragon. Women are emotional. You can't even find the hiding place of the light dragon. Benefits in Flower Town. There is no hope of killing the mercenaries may not appreciate. In fact, there are many evil dragons on the continent, to buy her heart, but most of them are elemental dragons, which are more powerful than metal dragons and gem dragons. The others continue to be dragons and metal dragons are production units, while elemental dragons are for the dishes to be served. Gord asked, "Can you tell me about the customs of the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom? Is it appropriate for me to put her in a new house in the aristocratic district?" He did feel that Zambrata had a wealth of knowledge. Perhaps an enemy, perhaps a friend. Zambrata got up and bowed slightly. It all depends on her choice. As you wish, Lord Baron. Liszt did not directly reveal the other party's identity. Instead, he said, "Consultant Gort, please tell Carl and Ron that the patrol team should pay more attention to her Ridge Kingdom. Don't let her get close in the northern mushroom workshop. The soap adjacent to the wine furnace kingdom and the eagle kingdom. The worm protection team must protect the vassal states, the 4 grand duchies of Sapphire, Maple Leaf, Rose, and Brass. You confuse me. And the 3 duchies of Light Sapphire. However, as you wish, I will tell Carl and Ron. Strictly speaking, the 2 grand duchies of Sapphire when the new serfs arrive, clothing, food, and housing should be arranged dragons in the country. No dragon. I will have the caravan urgently purchase a batch of clothes 3 times a year because he couldn't stand the nobles urinating and defecating. It is most important to take care of the serfs' lives. Afraid to even walk. Let the serfs feel the warmth of Flower Town in winter. There was even a knight who solved the problem on a stool in his study, patted Isaiah on the shoulder and didn't know and sat on it. Yes, let the serfs feel the warmth of home. How did the Duke of Honeysuckle punish the knight? She should see this scene and feel the warmth of Flower Town. He chose to defecate in the knight's helmet. Isaiah was not a fool and very creative punishment. Of course, Flower Town has a benevolent and Zambrata came from the civilians. This is a warm home. The 2 had been chatting for more than 3 hours and raised his glass. Zambrata always had a little gossip that kept Liszt interested. Sleep at night, especially the using the magic eye. It was estimated that Zambrata heard to make sure there were no mercenaries nobles during his travels, Liszt brought Dosen to the castle hall and let him sleep in the hall. When he traveled the Iron and Steel Ridge Castle gate with her own eyes. He was just a quasi-noble and could not get in touch with the important people in the courts of various countries. He couldn't sleep and he was thinking about the mercenary level. However, these unofficial histories were relatively more serious than the because of the smoke mission. At least the story was true and doing the other party was in line with the meaning of the reward. The night novels were not only revealed to distinguish between true and false senses, but the people in the story were also to have killed many baron. When the butler clearly on the opposite side asked about the dinner arrangements, Liszt was also an aristocrat, and his ass determined his head. All the officials of the town. He would never allow anyone who tried to shake the aristocratic rule to Zambrata. Swan decided to keep Zambrata for his from the Eagle Kingdom. There is no doubt that these anecdotes are of great reference significance for this compilation of the Chronicles of the Dragon War in the wild. Then I should never let her live. Thank you for your generosity. In fact, I was still too hasty. Zambrata bowed politely. He turned over and continued to think he had won the favor. I should first investigate her background and then decide whether his goal of reviving Flower Town mission has affected my judgment. Ever since he was stripped of his noble title by the Count, His life had fallen into dire straits. Was a conspiracy of
even his son and daughter
had begun to despise
such
him,
a manipulator
which made him
obviously
feel
could not
suffocated.
resist.
Right now he was still a free citizen
But now
without
that he
a title,
guessed that the smoke mission was the product of
who
the
could
smoke
guarantee
dragon,
that he would not
it was just
return
the
to the
control
noble
of
class,
fate,
which gave him
at
an
the dinner
independent
that
choice.
night,
List
people's
grandly
fate should be in their own hands,
town
not to be a
officials.
puppet.
Isaiah,
If it's good
Blair,
for me,
and
take
Marcus,
it,
all
and if
news
it's bad for me,
throw it away.
After all, he was
his
litmus
restless
tutor
mind
and
calmed
often
down
went
little
in
by
and out
little.
of Tulip Castle.
No matter how beautiful Swan's face is under the veil,
there would
as
be
long
no
as she
problem
is not
with his
in my
knowledge
interest,
and ability.
she must not be
The
left.
problem was his attitude.
Even if because of Maggie
the Count was
she will
furious
not
because
endanger
he allowed
Flower Town
Lytton
and
to
my
beat
rule,
civilians.
she must be sent
However,
away.
this was not a matter
of course,
of
these were
principle.
all assumptions.
It was normal for
they
nobles
had only
to
met
beat
for
up
the
commoners.
first time, and it
Not
was
all
difficult to
nobles were
judge
like
whether
Liszt,
what she
who
said
hid
was
the
true or
concept of
false.
equality in the
Her
depths of
identity
their
and
hearts.
background were also
For the people of
difficult to
this
guess.
world, it was
For
normal
Maggie,
to
her
divide
sister had
people
gone
into
to learn
different
magic.
classes.
Judging
Therefore,
from Swan's
everyone
dress,
still
she was
held
a
a
welcoming
welcoming
attitude
attitude
towards
towards
Zambrata.
But she
Of
also
course,
knew
it was hard to
invisibility.
say whether
Although
Isaiah
the
and
principle
Blair
was
had a
not
sense
clear,
of
it
crisis
should be a
in their
kind of
hearts.
magic.
After the
Moreover,
dinner,
the
Liszt
description in the
Zambrata
smoke
and
mission
talked for
was that
nearly
she
an
was
hour.
called a thief.
He reluctantly
So whether
let
she
him
was
go.
a knight or a
Of
magician,
course, Liszt
it
was
was
still
unknown.
clear-headed.
Whether she was a mercenary or a thief,
I already know
it
why
was
you
also
came.
unknown.
Regarding
Touching
your
the red
position
blood
in the
sword
flower
at the
town,
bedside,
don't worry.
Liszt had
I have
completely
received
calmed down.
news that my father
Since
will
she is
return
here,
before
I
the new
can't
year.
decide whether she will
I
come
will
to the
arrange
flower
your work
town
after
or not.
the new year.
But I must decide whether she
Zambrata
can
nodded,
stay or not.
understanding Liszt's subtext.
I will listen
Chapter
to your
220.
arrangements, Lord
Swan
Baron.
strolled through the
You
streets
can go
of Flower
home and
Town.
wait for the news,
The snow
or
had
you can
stopped
stay in
last
Flower
night.
Town. The road
When
had
you
been
have
shoveled
time,
out of the
you
snow,
can continue to talk
revealing
about
the gravel
interesting
road
things
on
in
the
various
ground.
countries.
Compared with
I am
the stone
very
roads
interested
she
in
had
this
seen in big
information.
cities.
This
My
kind
wife
of
has
gravel
died
road
and my
was very
children have
simple.
married.
But for
I
a
will
small
not go
town,
back. It was
if
very
possible,
bold to
I
be able
intend
to
to
stay
stay
in
in
gravel
Flower Town
road.
first.
No matter which
I
country,
will let
most
Gordon
small
arrange
towns
your
had dirt
accommodation.
roads.
The
The
Count
patrols
came back
with
a few days
smile
faster than
maintained
Liszt
the order of the
expected.
new serfs
On
and
December
began to
20th,
distribute
he
clothes.
returned to Coral
The
Island
clothes
with
were
orders
thick
of chivalry.
cotton-padded clothes
Ships
without
of
cutting
materials
corners.
were piled up at the
After
dock,
a while,
all
the
of
serfs
which
began to
were spoils of
transport
war.
the prepared
Of
food
course,
to the
when he went,
residential
there were
area and
complete
provided
orders
it
of
to the
chivalry,
new
but
serfs
when he
through
came
the team
back, there were
organized
fewer
by the
knights.
town officials.
He had probably
The food
stayed
was
in the
plentiful.
Eagle Kingdom forever.
Although it was only
After
beans
the
and
night
black
of Tulip
bread,
Castle,
everyone
came to
was
Flower
given a
Town
kind of
to
shellfish.
shellfish.
Liszt
She had
planned to
inquired
leave for
about
Tulip
it.
Castle the
It was
next day to
seafood,
participate
a
in the
delicious food
celebration
given to
banquet
Lord
held
Liszt
by
by the
Tulip
sea.
Castle. Last night,
Mr.
she
Carter,
tasted the
the
seafood
gifts
and
you
found
brought
it
for my
tasted
father
good.
and brother
It
must
was
be
said
as
that Flower
sumptuous as
Town
you can
relied
get
on
them.
seafood to
I
let
am going to
everyone
the
live a full
celebration
life.
banquet this time,
From the color
hoping
on
to
the
get a
faces
little
of the
more from my
civilians,
father's
she knew it was
spoils of
true.
war,
Compared
especially
with the
iron.
dishes common
The
to
lack
the
of
serfs
iron
in the
is driving me
countryside,
crazy.
the serfs here
Although
had
the
ruddy
bonesmith
faces.
shop has opened,
They wore
and the
thick
bonesmith
cotton-padded
Blanchard's
clothes,
family
smiled
has
when
been
making
working
bone
and
tools
received
day
a
and
copper or
night.
two as a
But
salary.
iron is still an
It
important
was hard
resource.
to believe that such a
The iron
life would
he used
appear
to
in a
make the
small
heating
rural
water
town.
tank and the air
Not long
conditioner
after,
cover was
she had
melted
arrived
out of
at
the
the
wheat
wheat
settlement.
Nowadays
Chickens
there are
crowed
more
one
and more
after
things in
another in
Flower
the
Town.
settlement,
And
she
she
could see the serfs taking out the leftover
high-end
breadcrumbs
seafood is a
and some
precious
wheat
gift.
bran to feed the big
Exquisite
and small
bread,
chickens.
peanuts and other food
She
are
also passed
qualified
a pig
gifts.
farm with more
Liszt
than a
also
dozen
intends
fat
to give
pigs.
the Count and leave
Everything
us a pair
showed
of
that this was a
binoculars.
rich town.
The military
Not
value
only
of
was the castle
binoculars is
rich,
still
the
great.
town rich,
He
but even the
believes that
village
the
farm
Count
will
was rich.
definitely reward
A
Liszt
very
with a
quiet
lot of good
village.
things when he sees
She
the
suddenly
binoculars.
remembered her hometown,
Also in a small town, a village farm like the
Originally,
Originally,
the binoculars were intended to be kept secret.
The local lord's
But
taxes
as he
were too
continues
heavy
to
and
integrate
excessive,
into the
resulting
aristocratic
in
system,
serfs not having
into the
enough
Tulip
to eat.
family,
Her
and
family
enjoys
also
the
did
benefits
not
of
have
the
enough
family.
to eat. His mentality
Her
has
parents
changed.
planned to marry her
Only
to a
by
crippled old
maintaining
man
and
in the
strengthening
village.
the family
She
can
was
he better
only
protect
15 years
himself.
old at that time.
Even if he personally
crippled
goes
old
to the
man was in his
battlefield in the
50s.
future to
His
make
folds could
contributions
catch
and
flies,
become a
and he
viscount
looked
of
like he would
Black Horse
die at
Island.
any time.
The Tulip
After
family was
mustering
still
up
be
her
his
strong
strong
backing,
She ran away from
if the
home
Count can
early
go
the
a
next
step
morning.
further and become a
Just
marquis
as she was
by
about to
virtue
leave
of
his
his
military
village,
exploits,
she happened to hear
then his
serfs
status
working
will
in the
rise
fields
again.
at the entrance of
At
the
that
village
time,
singing their hometown songs. Son of the Marquis and the grandson of the Marquis. In this village. As long as he goes to the battlefield, he will not have to worry about not being able to make contributions. At that moment, her tears flowed freely, but she had no hopes that the Tulip family can develop in the blink of an eye. At least too many things remain the dragon, but the people the family can shelter him and let him develop. When she finally had the ability, he doesn't have to worry about his invention. She heard that the Iron and Steel Rich Kingdom was going to war with the Eagle Kingdom again. Cement, so she embarked on the journey back home. He would have already started to study them. However, level of technology may not be able to create an era, but it can definitely make a family grow rapidly. Her hometown had not been destroyed in the war. It is not necessarily a good thing for a weak family to control. It may end up being destroyed had already been eaten by wild dogs. The tragedy of the small Kerchief Island, she had always reminded Liz that the aristocracy also has risks. So she chased him all the way from the kingdom of Eagle to the Grand Duchy of Sapphire. He had finally found his sister in this remote village on the island. Good morning, Captain Swan. On the eve of departure, a stuttering greeting
Baron
pulled
List
Swan
deliberately
back to
went to the
reality from her
brewery in the
memories.
workshop area.
She turned her
The
head
three
and saw that it was a
Frank
little slave
distillers,
girl.
Berdang and
It seemed that
Huntella
on the ship,
had been
the
working
little
on
slave
distilling
girl
liquor
fell
for
down
more than
and
a
she
month.
took her to get a
The
meal.
results had never
It's
been
you.
delivered to the
The
castle.
little slave girl had changed into
for such a long
cotton-padded
time,
clothes.
besides
They
continuing
were a
to
little
brew
big,
beer,
but they
rice
looked
wine,
very
and
warm.
fruit wine,
Her
you
face
still
had
haven't
also
been able
been
to
washed.
brew liquor? Although
He
there was
asked
still
with
an
a trace of
unkind
malnutrition.
expression, her spirit
Frank
had
Distillers,
recovered. The brewer with
after
the
the
same name
serpentine
as
greeting,
Lisa's tutor
she
Frank,
immediately
was
changed
the
to
person in
whisper,
charge of the brewery,
and her tone became lively.
He replied awkwardly,
Captain Swan,
"Sir, we
are
have
you the
figured
Lord
out
of
the
Flower
method
Town?"
and principle of
Swan
distillation,
then asked,
but the
"Do you like
distilled
Flower
liquor does
Town?"
not seem to have the
"Well, I
taste
like
of
Flower
liquor.
Town.
Take out
Mr.
the
and
liquor
Mrs.
you
Brown
brewed."
are good people.
Soon, the
I
liquor
also
they
met
distilled was
Anija,
presented
who,
in
like
front
me,
of Liz.
is a serf who came
Frank
by ship from
explained,
another continent.
according to the method
She
you
has been
provided,
practicing
Sir Lord,
chi with the
we
knife.
found that during the
Do you know
distillation
chi?
process,
A big
the
man
liquor
like
and
you
the
must have
fermented
practiced
liquor will
chi.
first evaporate,
Female
and the
slaves
rest
can
is
also
water.
practice chi.
After repeated
Yes,
distillation,
Anija asked her
liquor can
instructor,
be
Lord
obtained.
Rom.
However,
Girls
we
can
have
go to
distilled
class.
it many times.
In a few days,
and there will
I can
always
also
be a
practice
foul,
chi.
sour,
Well, I
astringent,
want to be
and
as
salty
powerful as
taste.
Captain Swan.
List dipped
Don't
it in
you
a
want to
little
go
liquor
home?
and tasted it. Although he did not like to drink
confusion
liquor,
appeared on the
but it
little
was not
slave
like he
girl's
had
face.
never drunk the gin
She
in the
lowered
castle.
her head and seemed to
Compared
think
to
of
the
something.
gin, the liquor brewed
But
in the
Leah
Flower
has no
Town
home.
tasted really
But
bad and
soon
strange.
she raised her head
He could
again.
distinguish some
Mr.
foul
and
and
Mrs.
sour
Brown
taste,
said that Leah
and
should
the
make
aroma of
Flower
the liquor
Town
was
her
very
home.
light, and the
Swan was
alcohol
stunned
content
and
was not
smiled
high.
and said,
Then
"You
make it
distilled
home.
it repeatedly
Eating
and you got
breakfast.
this kind of liquor?"
List habitually
There
called
is a
out the
stronger
smoke
liquor,
mission,
but it may,
although he had
may
to
not
restrain
be
his
liquor anymore.
dependence on the smoke
Take
mission.
it out.
The smoke
Soon,
mission was
a
really
stronger
useful.
liquor was served.
He couldn't help but
List
think
only
about
took
the
a
smoke
small
mission
sip
every
and
day.
almost choked.
If you can catch the tail of the spicy
you must
taste,
try your
there was
best to
also
pull
a
it.
strong
Keep
stench
the
and a rotten
opportunity,
smell.
don't waste it.
This was
However,
definitely a
this time
problem in
the
the
smoke
fermentation
mission has changed
process
for
or
a long
distillation
time.
process.
The ethereal
Seeing
serpentine
List
is no
reaction,
longer the
Frank
familiar
and the other
words,
two stood
but the
aside
serpentine
uneasily.
that only appeared
They
once.
should feel ashamed. The mission
Liquor
has changed.
distillation was not a
Immediately,
difficult problem.
a new smoke
but with
mission
the
was
ideas
issued.
provided by Liz,
Mission.
after
In
more
the
than a month
snow-covered
of
Flower
research,
Town,
there was
workers
still
work
no
and sweat
qualified
every
liquor.
day, but they can't
What
get
an
enough
amazing
hot
work
water to
efficiency.
wash.
It
It
was
is
easy
easy
to
to catch a
feeling in
cold.
his stomach, but he could not vent
The
it.
Lord should take
The
this
three
into
people
account
in front
and
of
build
him
a
were the
bathhouse
only
for
three
men and
winemakers in the Flower
Reward,
Town.
a
If
new
they were
variety
really
of
talented,
flame
they
mushroom.
would not have been sent
The
to
monkey
Flower
hasn't been
Town.
bought yet.
They were probably
the mission
left
was
over
obviously not
craftsmen,
completed,
so they could not
but
be
now it
counted
has
on.
changed.
After
List
venting,
recalled
the
List
mission
restrained
of
his
the diary
anger.
of the descendants
Forget
of
it,
Philip's
you guys
sons.
continue to improve
He did
the
not
craft.
promote the contract
First,
between
fill
Phil
a few
and Jesse
bottles of
until
wine
now,
with low alcohol
but he
strength.
searched Phil's
I want
leathersmith
to take
shop
them
and got
away.
the diary that
In
was
the end,
supposed
the
to be
three
the
of them were
reward
not
in
punished.
advance. And
At
the
the very
mission changed
least, the
immediately.
distilled liquor had
This
already
time,
been
it
distilled.
is likely that the
Sooner
same
or
reason
later
has led
he
to
would
the
be able
change
to
of the
find a
mission.
way to remove the
The
strange
smoke mission
smell.
prompt says that
Brewing
the
the
mission has
specialty
changed,
flower wine
not
of
that the
Flower
mission
Town
has failed.
Is the reward for my thief already in place? List asked Thomas to
He
carry
thought
the
of the
liquor back to the
possibility that
castle.
Swan might already
He
have
still
someone in
intended
her
to bring
heart,
the
but
semi-finished
he felt
liquor
that
to
the
Tulip
progress was
Castle.
too fast.
However, he
wasn't
wasn't
treating
treating
it
it
as
as
a
a
gift.
gift about this
Instead,
mercenary
he
who
was
could
trying
make
to
herself
tempt Levis.
invisible. With
She
the
must have
existence of the
value,
liquor business,
and her
which was
invisibility
destined to make
alone
huge
is worth
profits,
subduing.
he would definitely
there are
be
also
treated like a
hidden threats.
top-notch guest
Killing
on
a
this trip to
aristocrats
Tulip
and
Castle.
unknown origins
He would
have
be able to
violated
take
his
away a
taboo.
batch of ironware
So he was
and
ready
iron
for a
ore.
protracted
The next
war.
morning, he never
The servants
expected
were
that
busy
the other
carrying
party
the
would
gifts
surrender
from
so
Flower Town
quickly.
to the carriage.
It even made him
Randy
sigh.
and Russell, with their
Alas, I
retainer
thought it was a
knight,
guardian
were warming
boss,
up.
but I didn't expect
They had
it to be
decided
just
to
a
follow
cutscene
Liz to
animation.
Coral City.
Is it because
Today's
your
list
list was no
flustered, or
longer
is my
more
charm
ordinary?
too high?
He did not go
He
out
picked
with a
up
show
Mrs.
of
Abby's new
extravagance,
invention
which was
of
not
steamed
worthy
bread,
of his identity.
smeared it with beef
Thomas,
mince and
the
mustard, and
manservant,
took a
was
bite.
holding dosage.
It's dry and hard.
Intermediate
It's
World
not
of
as soft
Warcraft
as a
was
real
one of
steamed
List's
bread, and it needs to be
extravagances.
improved.
Another manservant,
Whether Swan
Tom,
has someone
was
in
holding
her
a
heart or
beautiful
not,
jade box.
the original
in
plan
which
should
the thorn
continue,
sprite Ella
and the
was
investigation of
sleeping.
her background
Its
should be
birth was
accelerated.
destined to be the focus
The
of
construction attention of the two bathhouses.
The messenger knight clearly mentioned that the count wanted List to take Ella to Tulip Castle to show him the new member of the Tulip family.
Letting me build the bathhouse.
For the aristocracy was a member of the family. Gord also arrived early. Unfortunately, this time there was nothing for him to do. List asked him to stay in the open space of the barley settlement.
He was very regretful that he didn't have the opportunity to participate in the gorgeous
training lessons.
But what he needed to worry about was far more serious than not being able to participate in the feast.
It can add
to
the
the wife and children
image
were
of
coming
the
to Flower Town to celebrate this year's New Year's Day
of these children.
His little lover,
Lord riding
Freya,
intermediate
and the
world of
illegitimate
Warcraft
child
is
in her
incredibly
belly
powerful.
would be exposed.
It is a very
The
lucky
sun
thing
rose
to be
in
able
the
to
east.
farm for the Lord.
Flower Town,
letting
wrapped
one
in
of his
ice and
deputies
snow,
continue to
became
guide the training of the girls.
bright.
Rum saluted
Mr. Carter,
List.
I do not know
how many days I will
Good
be
day,
staying
Rum.
in the Tulip Castle.
Rum then began to
I will
introduce
leave
the
castle
training
to you.
progress of this group
List
of girls.
was dressed
The
appropriately
talented
in frack
and
Abbey,
untalented
which
girls
made
can
him look
basically be
particularly
distinguished
exuberant.
from the training.
Master,
The so-called
please rest
talent,
assured.
one is physical
Carter led the
fitness,
rest of the
and the other
servants
is
and watched
psychological
List leave.
quality.
Turning
Talented
over,
children would
List
definitely
rode
be
Black
tall
Dragon
and sturdy,
walked to the front
and they
of
would
the
be able to
procession.
endure hardships
Behind
and
him,
work hard.
Paris, who
As
had a
for the
great
issue
sword
of
on her
IQ,
back
the
and had
importance
changed
is
into a new
secondary.
set of leather
After
armor,
all, List is only training a veil of female serfs who can farm and do heavy work, so on this occasion she naturally had to protect Lisi's safety. Pay more attention to the health in a grandiose manner. Train in the snow, on the road, don't let them catch cold. To Thorn's Ridge. After sweating, take them back immediately to walk on. It was a gravel road. There is a stove, and the snow was shoveled away by the people. Every time we rest, we will let them go in to warm themselves. But after leaving Flower Town, it became a muddy road. Although it is summer training and winter training, but after all, they are little girls, and the training can't be too hard. Everyone was either on horseback or in carriages. Their speed was still too simple. Appreciating the snowy scenery along the way, referred to as the night square for night training in the future. Ram supports the Lord's decision. With a dedicated leaving North Valley City and entering the boundary of Union City, there was not much snow, only a muddy road. With a cafeteria around 10 in the morning, cultural classes will also be held here in the future. The faint stench had already reached further ahead. Fortunately, he not only wanted serfs to farm, but also wanted tulip flowers to do his paperwork. This was a red tulip. The development of Black Horse Island will require a lot of talents. Fresh and dried, it is difficult to guarantee the availability of talents. Even if you lived in Coral City all year round, training now, you would still not be used to the smell about the construction of the night square. Fortunately, the procession turned his attention to Maggie and went straight to Tulip Castle. The 9-year-old maid Tulip Castle was still surrounded by a sea of flowers in her movements. The colorful tulip was fluttering in the cold wind over and chatted with him for a long time. A large topic was mainly about Maggie. He asked the expanded magic ingredient Harriet's family, vaguely revealing that the largest area of the sea of flowers. The way the contract mother and daughter get along is very good. In the middle of this I hope you can continue to love each other. Rising along the hillside, the Tulip Castle night guard was a hint to the Harriet family that Maggie was indispensable. Until the procession was led to the gate of Tulip how to keep Maggie. The castle servants received them. If Swan wanted to take Maggie away, needed to walk with a cane. This would be the foreshadowing. But every time the count's children returned to the castle, the foreshadowing would not be a greet them at the gate. If List wanted to expel Swan, these young Tulip were children that he had personally watched grow up. He was watching every day when I see the sun rise out of the corner of the Lord's children. He saw Swan coming over. But the happiest thing is to see you return to the castle like tired birds returning to their nest. Enthusiastic, but very natural. The old man's words were like a poem came straight with a variety of metaphors and rhetoric. Dosen sniffed the air with his nose and suddenly growled at Swan. If it weren't for List's soothing, he would have pounced on her directly. Master Levis and Master Litton are at the Night Academy. A rare mutated bloodline is accompanying the old lady to watch a farce in Coral City. Swan did not know you were coming to be afraid of Dosen. They will probably be back at noon. Some of her actions were deliberately mystifying, led List upstairs, but it was hard for List to distinguish. Because the celebration banquet was not held today. When you manage the territory with care. All the members of the Orders of Chivalry returned to their territories first to solve their respective territorial affairs. Can you evaluate how Flower Town the day after tomorrow, that is December 23rd, it is the time for the celebration, but it has great potential. So at this time, the territory is rich was not very lively. I heard that you also have an elf that produces the castle were busy. The development of Flower Town will come soon. Others were not nobles and could not go upstairs, so they could only wait downstairs. At the time of the enfeoffment, Flower Town was poor, with a population of less than 2,000. Saw him and saluted. They were hungry, especially in winter. He passed the living room and Town had a population of more than 3,500. She was drinking tea while listening to the deputy butler Silver's report. It is unique on Coral Island. She was probably dealing with the Tulip Castle business. But half of the population are serfs. Greetings to you. If you don't buy them, they may still live a stable life in their hometown. Unfamiliarity. If I don't buy them, someone else cordially. List, it's not me who destroys their stable life, your brother, but the incompetent brother have yet to protect their people. You should have informed me has a gun and a sword so that I could make preparations. Of the people. She had naturally has to protect the safety of the people. Of course, she was now the mistress of the Tulip Castle. Their safety will be handed over to me. Deliberately. No sale, no killing. I will stay in Tulip Castle for a few days. The concept and today I just missed my father and brother too much, so I came early. But are you sure you can protect these people and not one day they will be sold as serfs again? Go, he is in the study. Swan looked at List with burning eyes. After saying goodbye to Madame Marie, List when he came to the study, the door was already open. It seemed to be the same routine. A servant had already informed the Count of List's arrival. Chuckling softly, not only was the Count in the study, but there were also several strangers. But in the Grand Duchy of Sapphire, standing posture in the study, for me to shelter it could be seen that they were officials of Coral Island. My father is the Earl of Coral Island. These officials were all small nobles. And my grandfather is the Marquis of Red Crab Island. From behind the desk. My mount is an intermediate World of Warcraft. You can go back. My longsword is a gem weapon. I won't keep you for lunch. And I have a fairy that produces potions. I'm going to hold a family banquet. He looked into the distance. The officials took their leave. Shone brightly at the same time, they also greeted List. No one can give them peace and tranquility more than me. No see. It was very infectious. List smiled in response. The mercenary was not know any of these people. He had spent most of his adult life in the Night Academy, so he really did not know who these officials were. The Flower Town's fate was not necessarily better than that of the captured doors.
Seeing the Count again, List's feelings were different.
That's why I have to
Generally
accumulate
speaking,
strength and
it was
practice
difficult
hard
to
every day.
establish a true
My talent
father-son
may not be
relationship.
outstanding, and
The
I
body
only
broke
broke
through
through
to
to become
become
an
blood,
Earth Knight
but
after
the soul was
adulthood,
not involved
but after
before.
6 months,
But it
I
didn't
can already
stop him
defeat
from
an elite
reconsidering
Earth
his
Knight.
relationship
I
with
will
the Count
continue
from
to
the
recruit
perspective of
Knight,
interest
form a
and
Knight
kinship.
squad, and guard
Simply
Flower
put,
Town.
List's sense of
Really,
identity
I
with
hate
the
the
Tulip family
hypocrisy
had
and
increased.
belligerence of the aristocracy.
Swan said calmly with a little sigh.
His
Although
predecessor
you are
had a
also
weak
a
personality
hypocritical
and liked to
aristocrat,
escape,
at
so he
least
felt
you do
like
not
he was
have the
invisible
misdeeds
and no
of the
one paid attention
aristocracy.
to him.
Flower
However,
Town,
List
a
only
small
came into
town on an
contact with him a
overseas
few
island,
times,
may
but
really
he
be
found
able
some
to enjoy
details
peace.
that he had overlooked.
Not waiting for
Madame
List to
Penelope,
speak,
who kept
she
saying
regained
that she
her
did
calm
not
tone
like him,
and said directly,
was actually
very
very
concerned
concerned
about
about
her
her grandson.
sister away or
The
buy her
Chinibu
for
sister
20
had
silver
always
coins.
bullied List,
You are
but she
wrong
did
on
not
2
do
points.
anything excessive.
List has seen the other
greedy
party's
brother pointed his
psychological
spear at
retreat.
Madame Marie
At
and
this
Lytton,
moment,
but
it
not
is
at List.
necessary for the enemy
Madame
to
Marie
retreat.
and Lytton, of course,
He
looked
said
down
sternly,
on List,
but
on the
first, I will
surface,
not
they
buy or
still
sell
maintained
any
a
civilians
harmonious
in Flower
relationship.
Town. Second,
Just now,
I have asked
the
simple
simple
conversation
conversation
with
with
Madame
Madame
Marie,
made
and I have
List
sent
feel that
someone to
Madame
Coral
Marie
City
had
to
become
ask her
more
parents.
amiable.
I
She
am more
probably
willing to
understood
believe
that
that
List
her
would
parents.
not be mediocre in the
I'm
future,
not talking
so she
about
had to face
Irene.
up to how to deal
List
with her
stared.
relationship with
What?
List.
She was
Even
a
if
little
she could not be on good
unconfident.
terms, she
I'm
had to
talking
be as
about a
close as
slave girl you
possible.
bought. What
She is
surprised
my
List the
sister,
most
so
was
I
actually
chased
the
her all
Count.
the way to Coral
This
Island.
powerful Sky
The
Knight,
time for a
sacred
showdown has
swordsman of
arrived.
waves Lee William Tulip, was not as indifferent to his
Chapter
second son as the
222.
predecessor
The strategy
remembered.
of the enemy
With a
retreating
smile
is
on
that
his
when you are
face,
righteous
he
and
looked
others
at
are
the
wronged,
increasingly
you can make
handsome
a loud
List.
noise.
He
Of
extended
course,
his
moderation
hand,
is
motioning him
necessary.
to sit down and talk.
Otherwise, if the other
List's
party is
predecessor
irritated,
had always
they may
felt that the
directly
Count was
attack.
very disappointed
If I
with him.
offended you, Baron,
After
I
all,
apologize.
during his coming-of-age
Swan's
ceremony,
expression
he was
was
entheved
covered
by
by
a
the most
veil and
remote
could
town,
not be
the
seen
Baron,
clearly,
and was
but
only
her
given
eyes were a
forced
little
bright
evasive.
worms.
Unable to
Compared to
look directly
Lara's
at List's
enfeefment,
eyes,
the difference was
but
like
I have to
heaven
take
and
my
earth.
sister away. This
If
affected
I heard
List's
correctly,
senses for
you
a
are
while.
not opposed to family
He
reunion.
felt that the Count did not value
Do you
his
really
second
have a
son.
sister who was trafficked
However,
to Flower
after
Town,
digesting the
rather
memories
than
of his
coming to Flower
predecessor,
Town with bad
coupled with the
intentions?
rational analysis
List
of
saw
an
that the
adult,
time was
he
almost
felt
right
that it
and
might
gave
not
the
be
other
as
party
simple
away
as
out.
not valuing him.
Swan really
If he
followed
really
the
did
steps
not
down.
value him,
Do you think
List
I would
could have
come to
become
such
a
a remote town on
quasi-aristocrat
a remote
without a
island
title.
in a remote
The
island
second
country
sons
with
of
bad
many
intentions?
aristocrats were in this
List
situation,
pointed to
without
several
a
lounges
lounges
on
on
the
the
title.
training ground.
However,
the
let's go to
Count
the
gave him
lounge
the
and
title
talk.
of Baron
The
and a thief
manservant
of a small
Thomas
town.
added firewood to
It
the
was just
stove
that
in
the
the lounge,
location was a bit
got up
worse
and
and the
retreated,
material
and stood
compensation was a
outside the
bit
door
less.
with Dosen.
Far from
In the
not
room,
valuing
only
him,
List and
the
Swan
Count
were sitting
valued
by
him
the
more
fire.
than the second sons of
Flower
many
Town is my
aristocrats.
territory,
Even on
and
the
you are
first
the
out
first
to the
uninvited
sea
guest
festival
of the
after the
castle.
enfeefment,
I
the
believe
Count
that you are
brought his
looking for
family
your
to
sister.
Flower Town to
So why
celebrate
did you
the
sneak
festival.
into my study
I'm
and spy
afraid
on
he
me?
was disappointed.
As I said before,
After all,
I was
he
going
had
to
high
kill the
hopes.
lord who
The
sold
remote
serfs and
thief
take
and
my
the
sister
title of
away.
Baron.
Swan
He
said
hoped that the
calmly, and when
predecessor
she
could
saw the
live an
disapproval
ordinary
on
life.
List's face, she
After
added,
all, with the
"Don't
title,
show that
he would not
expression.
have to work hard
Once
to
my
charge on the
strength breaks
battlefield.
out, your father,
The
the
town
waves
could
provide
provide
food and
William,
drink, can't
but it
keep
could
me."
not form a night
List was
squad,
really
let
surprised.
alone go to the
Are
battlefield.
you a Sky Knight?
These
Or a
thoughts
great
quickly
magician?
flashed through
If
List's
she was
mind,
really
but he
so
was not
powerful,
sure. Then his
he was not
so-called
good at
strategy
family
was simply
affection.
walking a tightrope. He also took a look at Dosen outside the door and barely
Sir
calmed
father,
down. After receiving
Neither.
the news of your
Swan
safe
suddenly
return,
smiled
the
lightly
stone in my
with a
heart
sense
was
of
quickly
playfulness.
thrown away.
Have you heard of
I
a
am
servant?
deeply happy to see that you are
Servant?
doing as usual.
List had never heard of it.
I made you
Swan
worry.
smiled again.
The Count smiled.
It was a teasing
this time,
smile,
the
but it felt
expansion
like a
order ended in a
self-deprecating
hurry,
one.
and the results
Putting
were
away her
relatively
smile,
shabby.
she continued,
Fortunately,
"I
your
saw
brother
my
has
sister in the
experienced the
kitchen.
transformation
She
in
was
the war
very
and has
happy here
matured
and
a
even
lot.
praised you in private.
Is my
So
brother
I went
all right?
upstairs to see what
Yes,
kind of
he is
lord
more
could receive the
sophisticated and
sincere
calm
praise
than
of
he
his
used to be.
subjects.
Most
I was going to take a
importantly,
look
he
and
has
leave,
established his
but I
prestige.
didn't expect you to see
There
through
is
my
nothing more
invisibility
gratifying
spell.
to a father than
The
to
other
see
party
his heir
had
indeed
indeed
wanted to kill him.
When I returned
but he
to
had
Coral
given up
Island,
on it.
I heard about you immediately. List still felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. The Count took out the fine red wine from the cabinet and poured a glass for himself and his second son. The adult soul was able to control its emotions and replied generously. So, my servant is just a misunderstanding, and now the misunderstanding has been resolved? List immediately said, the castle is your sister. Please tell my servant to send Ella over. Maggie, she's training outside. The servant took the order. Oh, it's Maggie. The Count said, List, do you want to hear the story of the battlefield at least first, the other parties, or do you want to talk about the development of Flower Town first? I want to hear the story of the battlefield first. Thomas, tell Rome to bring out a girl named Maggie over. Surprised for a moment, the Count sighed and said, after a short while, sure enough, Rome came in with Maggie. Castle will restrain Maggie looked people's at Swan curiously, and then fledglings need to constantly test their flight. What can I do for you? I'm afraid List waved his hand and tell me the story of the battlefield all day and all night. He looked at Swan again, indicating with his eyes that she should play a game or he should speak. War deduction games were a primitive form of war chess used to deduce the situation of the military. Stretched out her hand and took off the veil on her paper with a map revealing a beautiful Eagle Kingdom was spread out. According to List's crystal sculpture symbolizing the castle, he could give her night and the sky knight were placed one by one. Whether it was the face shape or the facial features, they were very delicate. The main flaw was that there were a few freckles, which ruined the beauty. Such a face was not a surprise, Chapter 235. But it was definitely not a childish game.
As soon as she took off the veil, Maggie's eyes widened as if she couldn't believe it with emotion. Until Swan spoke after decades of fighting, the Count's tactical mind still only existed in charging. Maggie also shouted in the wind behind the hillside. Then the two of them hugged each other tightly. To charge together. This picture was very touching. To charge. But List was as if in the night war there was only one option. The only difference was how to charge. Sister, List, you shouldn't do this. But what did Swan say? This is a forest, yes, looking at the hide people, but the forest will also hinder no end to what they had to say. However, the forest will also hinder your language, so you have to choose an open area to set up an ambush. Old Granddad to come over. The back of this hill is a very good place for an ambush. He didn't know what they were talking about. The Count pushed his knight and continued to charge forward, not knowing what Swan said to hide the night in the woods. Maggie suddenly hesitated and stammered. Then I will ambush in the woods on the other side of the river and wait for your knight to cross the river. Sister, halfway across, I will go launch a charge, wipe out some of the night on the shore, and then block the rest of the night back. Mrs. Harriet and I, she is my mother. List did not dwell too much on whether the woods could hide the night or not. But I am your sister. He did not choose to ambush behind the hillside. Mrs. Harriet is just your contract mother. He just took out a few night carvings from the woods and put them in the woods by the river. Again. The Count touched his chin. Shouted out the door. That's fine, Thomas. Why don't you ambush behind Mrs. Harriet and Mr. Harriet to come over? The hillside is the most suitable place for the night to ambush and charge. You are Maggie's sister. No one can change that. But it is also the easiest to detect. Maybe we should inform Mrs. Harriet. So this team of really treats Maggie as her own daughter. Carvings. Swan took a deep look at Maggie and nodded slowly. The atmosphere became silent. Eat a little less, I can escape. Neither Swan nor Maggie spoke. The Count took back a carving, just thought about it, and took back another one. When Maggie peeked at him, List didn't mind and even brighter to deduce. It could be seen that the little maid liked the flower town, so they must retreat and return to the other side of the Red River. It didn't take long for Harriet's family to arrive. The night I left in the woods on the other side can take the opportunity to gather and charge again to drive away your night. By old Granddad, and I eat another batch. Burst into tears as soon as she appeared. Pushed out the night sculptures that he had deliberately left in the woods and took away several of the Count's night sculptures. Maggie bowed her head in shame and moved. This, I'm not, Mom. The Count was stunned. Mrs. Harriet put her arms around Maggie. So you deliberately left these night carvings? Really, you won't leave, Mom? Did you set up an ambush here? By the way, this is your sister, the magician sister you mentioned. That's why your night formation is in tatters and will definitely continue to flee. My knight can take this opportunity to gather and Mrs. Harriet quickly saluted. The Count was a little uncomfortable. She was only 19 years old this year, the same age as routes to choose from. She could only one is to split up and escape, the other is to retreat through Paris, but I'm not a magician. Before he could finish, the Count interrupted. Paris, I don't object to taking Maggie away. But I really don't want to forces will be too scattered. I've always wanted to have a launch a charge. I heard that Maggie's biological plan to set up an ambush here. I'm sorry, you have 3 routes to choose from, but I hope to do my duty as a mother and take care of Maggie. Mrs. Harriet, who ran the grocery store, was very talkative. There is another option, which is to find your main Swan or Paris. If it's the first one, I can chase them all over by taking Maggie away. If it's the second one, you can stay away from the battlefield and don't need to pay attention to it. Paris is the third one. If there is no problem with her background and her strength will begin to retreat from the plains here. It is not a bad idea. How are you going to deal with it? Then again, what is the profession of a retreat back to the castle? Why is it so mysterious? Viscount Varyen is not the main battlefield of the battle. The decisive battle between you and Count Figo is the key to the battle. What leaves are they, I only need to defend the castle, the large leaves can be like wavy edges of Red River Plain, and the small oblong leaves supply line between you and Marquis Roderick's orders of chivalry. Mistletoe is a parasitic plant on the oak tree's combat power. It represents hope and fertility, and the oak tree represents 3 consecutive local night battles. Maggie understood and put the pendant into her clothes. A set of theories and tactics made the Count doubt his life. Maggie, leave with me. Why do you have so many strange ideas in your mind? Maggie lowered her head. The Count looked at Mom and Dad were killed and our village was destroyed. Why don't you put the night around the castle to protect the safety of the castle? Sister will protect you. It is a very risky place for you to divide your troops and ambush them like this. Paris flexed her biceps. Viscount Varian's castle is undefended, although the orders of chivalry are not stronger than one. Your follower, but I feel that Flower Town is block him in the castle and dare not show up. Then his role will be lost. I have a new mother. Count Figo will be cut off. Mrs. Harriet is my mother. Therefore, abandoning the castle can play an active role. Once again, Paris is proposed to take Maggie away. Of chivalry can still go to Mrs. Harriet, who had already been never fought, quietly asked. But when it comes to the ability to talk on paper, on letting Maggie leave with warrior, she's just a 9-year-old girl. Hang a world. How can she adapt to a wandering life? And 36 I will take care of her, Mrs. And he is a man who spent years in World War II. You are her sister. He also has, but have you ever thought about it in his mind? Thought about a tactic that repels the mainstream of the world? And he is afraid to say it and scare the Count. If you are not in a hurry to leave, you can stay in Flower Town. Judging from the Count's tactical arrangement, he originally sent Jonas Gravel to block Viscount Varyen in the castle. My son grew up and got married significance. He is about to have a child. The Count can easily nibble away. Maggie can also grow up power, and eventually never thought about Figo to fight him in the upper reaches of the Red River. But after a moment, she felt that it was indeed an interesting proposed battle.
She came all the way to Coral Island in order to rescue her sister who was sold, and smoothly plunder a large number of resources and minerals. So what was the point of this rescue? Once Viscount Valiant's knights defeated Viscount taking her sister away, they would be able to defeat him. I will think about it, It can quickly dissolve the Count's advantage. Thank you for your hospitality. So that Count Figo does not have to rush to fight. Paris did not mention taking Maggie away in the Red River Plain in a dilemma. She still lived in the aristocratic residential area. At that time, the Count has no choice but to generously waived her accommodation costs. He carefully considered learned about the progress of Paris and Maggie through old Grandette, but he did not know how to refute. He knew that things were settled. Probably tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, simply pushed away Paris a pile of carvings and stiffly changed the topic. She's outside, there is no reason to go already back. Outside the door. But beyond List's Let me see plan, Ella first. Paris visited the castle that night. Of course, as you wish. This time she did not rely on invisibility. The servant came in with Ella's J box and opened the box, showed up to visit and was left in the hall by Carter. Days, woke up when Carter knocked on the door. As soon as it opened its eyes, to ask for instructions, saw a human face, startled who was reading, nodded calmly. Of course, it did not invite her into the study and make 2 cups of reaction speed is not comparable to that. Paris was brought in by Carter. The Count also reached out down. She did not talk nonsense. A very healthy and lively little guy. I used to be congratulations in the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf. You did better than I thought. Although I just did a little work, I still retain the identity of a registered mercenary. Flying dust dog. I don't know if you need to hire a mercenary to work for intermediate world of Warcraft. The Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf, yes, would you like to see Duchy of Sapphire? It's outside one of the vassal states taken care of by my servant kingdom. List said, listening to you, I know very little about World of Flower Town and take care of Maggie. In fact, I don't know much about Dawson's level. So, first of all, let's go downstairs and self-introduction. They went downstairs. You said that you have killed Dawson was basking in the sun. I am also an aristocrat. Was not afraid of people, so I want to make sure that you stay into Flower Town and will not bring trouble to Flower Town. It suddenly jumped up. You can rest assured that I have killed a lot of aristocrats and am still wanted in the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf, behave and let the Count examine me to such a remote island state. Chapter 224. The 15-year-old girl wanted to learn magic, chapter is but it was not easy to find a magician. Half of World of Warcraft's magic she finally found the address of a magician, the other half from external absorption. The magician intermediate World of Warcraft absorbed she had no money. The outside world, so the magician refused. Low-level Warcraft. Why do you want to learn magic? This is a very subtle absorption that Paris was not see with magic eyes. She continued to look for a magician. After being rejected by 3 magicians, he concluded that Dawson has reached the level of intermediate World of Warcraft. Magician. As for the degree of blood magician used her it is a judgment based on the differences in the blood after of the painful pain deprivation. The same species here can be regarded as an evolutionary lineage. In addition to her injuries, she did not learn flying dust dogs and Dawson. She was hungry, cold, between the same species, and almost died. There is a clear difference between the strong World of Warcraft living in the sewers and the weak World of Warcraft bloodline. She thought that in this life she could only be one of the rats who survived and fast, the temperature is high, and the change in nature is obvious. She was accidentally involved at the level of a dragon. The degree of blood boiling can directly in the Maple Mountain of the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf. The Count is experienced, and he judged that Dawson is an intermediate. It makes the whole Maple Mountain a mirage, which is almost no one can find where it is. Father, Dawson can only release rock thorns. All the people in the cities near Maple Mountain limits its understanding of magic. At this time, the great court magician of the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf came up with the idea of stealing the mysterious power of the light dragon. World of Warcraft. I don't know which magic book he read. Oh, there is also multiple conditions. A human killed by a dragon will become a ghost-like ghost. The Count reached out and touched Dawson's shiny dragon blood as a gift, causing Dawson to whimper. With the support of the nobles, it still needs time to settle. A large number of rats to cooperate with him to create white dragons. To accumulate in order to truly transform and become a more noble existence. And I am also one of the rats who was blinded by dragon blood. On top of List's head, if there is no accident, out again for some reason. So came to the strange place of Tulip Castle and was a little cramped. List was surprised. In fact, when it was for the first time he heard that a person killed by a dragon probably had no memory at that time. Isn't this the same nature as the ancient legend of helping a tiger? On the main road outside the castle, Paris shook her head. A group of knights was already running towards a ghost-like existence. The one leading them was List's brother, like a ghost, and behind him was the great magician did not know that List even stole his research notes. His voice could already be heard. But it was too late. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? The light dragon appeared in front of us. You made me spend half a day in the medium-sized light dragon was after dismounting from the horse. The rats were engraved with a mark showing the dragon's interest by the great magician. After waiting for him to speak, this was a kind of passive magic that could not be erased. I missed you and Father very much. It extracted the resentment of humans after going to the battlefield. Combined it with the mysterious power of the light dragon. He has the temperament of a father. Trying to condense the white dragon he wanted. Levis was very happy. The mice were killed one by one. If you don't go to the battlefield, you will always be a fledgling. While once you go to the battlefield to prevent the light dragon, and when you look back at the past, catching us, you will feel that many of the things you did were very thinking of a countermeasure. At this moment, Lytton dismounted from his horse and shouted, "Brother List. Lytton, you've grown taller." List responded with a smile. The boy was only 12 years old, but he was already at least 1.75 meters tall. He could get the Count's attention not entirely because of Lady Marie's pillow talk, but because of his own talent. The Count saw that all 3 of his sons had performed well and was very satisfied, but he put on a serious expression on his face. "Since you're all back, let's have a good talk." After that he entered the castle alone. After the Count left, Levis and Lytton turned their attention to Dosen and Ella. Ella was just an elf, and there were 11 in Tulip Castle. However, the charm of intermediate World of Warcraft was firmly attracting the two. Men's fantasies were famous horses and World of Warcraft. Compared with the low-level World of Warcraft Fire Rabbit raised in Tulip Castle, the prestige of intermediate World of Warcraft Dosen can be seen from its body shape. Unfortunately, no matter how envious they were, Dosen was List's and they couldn't take it away. The lunch has not yet begun. Levis, as the Count expected, pulled List and began to talk about his experience on the battlefield, such as charging thousands of miles to attack the enemy's castle, guarding the food, speaking boldly at the military meeting and rescuing the slave girl. These were all boastful and exaggerated elements. But it does interest List, especially when Levis saw the Count and Count Figo, 2 Sky Knights, duel. The Count is known as the Wave Sword Saint, and Count Figo is known as the Fire Cloud Sword Saint. The 2 sword saints flashed and moved in the sky, and their fighting spirit gushed out, covering the sky and the sun. The confrontation of water and fire almost cut off the Red River below. In the end, the Count's waves overshadowed Count Figo's fire cloud, seriously injuring Count Figo. Then he launched the Night Charge, defeating the opponent's orders of chivalry in one fell swoop. Occupy the Red River plain, plunder resources and make a career. Father's giant wave breaks the tide, is invincible under the Sword Saint. I really want to break through to the Sky Knight one day, have high-level fighting spirit, and use such an incredible fighting spirit. Levis' admiration for the Count was like a torrential river. Although his eloquence was average and his narration was dry. But List could still feel the horror of the battle between the Sword Saints, and his heart was also surging. If the Sword Saint was really as powerful as Levis described, the current Trembling Woods was probably far from being his opponent. After all, the Sword Saint could fly for a short period of time, while Trembling Woods could only jump. He measured the gap between himself and the Sky Knight and felt that it was bigger than he thought. Unless Dosen develops a new magic such as Flying Rock which can attack the air, he can only be beaten passively. Suddenly he thought of Paris again. He didn't know if the transformed Black Dragon could fight with the Sword Saint for hundreds of rounds, probably for a period of time, and then be defeated or be corroded by the power of the dragon, die and become a white dragon. Brother, in this war has there been a Dragon Knight? No, unless the war is really out of control, no country is willing to send a Dragon Knight or a dragon. There are too many uncertain factors involved. In fact, I didn't even see the Grand Duke's Sapphire Dragon. In every battle the Sky Knight is the main force. He paused and said excitedly, but I saw the advanced World of Warcraft. It was a 1,000-eyed tarantula, the mount of Marquis Gladden of the Eagle Kingdom. It jumped higher than the Sky Knight. Unfortunately, Gladden came to send a truce. I followed Marquis Roderick and felt the aura of the 1,000-eyed tarantula, and I trembled all over. Why did this war end so quickly? Because of the intervention of the Blast Furnace Kingdom, the daughter of the Eagle Kingdom married the brother of the King of Blast Furnace, the Duke of Heisberg. Levis said with a low voice, the Duke of Heisberg has a dragon, and it is said that he may become a Dragon Knight before the age of 40. List frowned, so the Eagle Kingdom and the Blast Furnace Kingdom are going to form an alliance? Things are not that bad. It is normal for kings to marry each other, but there is still a war to be fought. It's just that we can't fight anymore this year. We have just occupied the Red River Plain, and we have not had time to plunder many materials and mines, so we have to retreat. The income is getting less and less year by year. The Count had made his fortune by the order of expansion. Every time he attacked the Eagle Kingdom he could bring back a lot of materials. That was why he was able to monopolize the sale of superior beer. Egg soup, scrambled eggs, seafood and peanuts. All he needed was a creative idea. Most of these foods were invented by List to satisfy his stomach. He also wanted Mrs. Abby to make some money before others could learn it. The industries that could really do business were those with monopolistic nature. For example, beer had a monopoly on raw materials, soap and liquor had a monopoly on technology, and cement, ceramics, glass and white paper that would be developed in the future. This was where List's hopes lay. After afternoon tea, List walked around the Coral City. First, he went to the night college to meet with the familiar students in the college and to contact the gradually estranged feelings. He also wanted to show his ambition, hoping that these future Earth Knights would consider him when they choose to follow the Lord. Next, he went to Frank's home and chatted with little Sally for an hour. The friendship of youth still had to be considered, and he could not be too heartless. Then he visited several friends in the Coral City. They were all aristocratic teenagers, mostly the second son of the family. Before adulthood, those teenagers who were destined to inherit the title liked to chase after Levis. Therefore, most of List's friends were second sons like him. It was almost the same now. The aristocrats who wanted to inherit the title would still follow Levis. The second sons who could not inherit the title would place their hopes on List. "Sir List, are you going to form your own knight squad?" In a small aristocratic manner, a young man named Rick asked List, who was sitting in the main seat. "I saw Randy. Has he become your follower?" "It hasn't been decided yet, but soon. After the New Year's Day, I will seriously consider forming a knight squad. Flower Town already has the ability to arm a knight squad. Russell and Randy may wait for me to form a knight squad before officially pledging allegiance to me." List replied. "So, can I follow you? I want to join your knight squad. I want to go to the battlefield." Rick asked hopefully. "Have you become an Earth Knight?" Rick's tone seemed a little proud and reserved. "Yes, just a month ago. Although it's a little late, I'm already 19 years old this year. Of course, I'm very happy that you want to follow me. But I hope that after the New Year's Day, you can live in Flower Town for a while, just like Randy, and wait until I form a knight squad before making a decision." List did not agree on the spot. It was the same reason as before. The knight chose the Lord and the Lord chose the knight. Another young man followed and asked, "What about me? Can I follow you? I haven't broken through to Earth Knight yet." His name was Nemo, and his father was an elite Earth Knight who did not receive a title. List smiled. Chapter 238. The banquet was not grand. The Count called over the officials of the Coral Island and Levis called over some of his subordinates to have a chat. After the dinner, List found an opportunity to go into Levis's study with him. "Brother, how good are you at tasting liquor?" List took the bottle containing the original flower wine from the servant's hand, unscrewed the cap, poured a glass and pushed it in front of Levis. "Taste this liquor and give me an evaluation." "I'm very good at judging liquor." "Well, what kind of liquor is this? Where did you get it?" He picked up the glass and asked. "It tastes bad, stinky and looks like a poor quality liquor. The liquor I drank when I was fighting in the Eagle Kingdom tastes better than this liquor." After that, he put the glass to his lips and touched it a little. "It tastes sour and has no strength. This liquor is too poor." Putting down the glass, he didn't say anything more. His meaning was self-evident. List's face remained unchanged and he continued to ask, "Brother, how much do you think a bottle of this liquor can be sold for?" "How much is a bottle?" Levis narrowed his eyes. "List, don't tell me this liquor is brewed in Flower Town? As you said, this is the self-brewed liquor I'm working on, flower wine. It's just that it hasn't been successfully brewed yet and the quality of the liquor obtained is very low. But anyway, I have already researched the liquor brewing technology, haven't I?" Hearing this, Levis's eyes were already shining and he couldn't wait to open his mouth. "What? You have developed the liquor brewing technology? God, List, don't lie to me. Do you know how valuable the liquor brewing technology is? There are only 5 kinds of liquor in the Grand Duchy, 3 of which are in the hands of the Marquis and 2 of which are in the hands of the Grand Duke." The Count commented that Levis, who has been on the battlefield, has matured. But at this moment, Levis is still the same Levis and his eyes are red. "Grandpa hasn't mastered the liquor brewing technology. Don't be too surprised, brother. It's just the liquor business. Compared to magic potions, the liquor business is nothing." "It's nothing." Levis's breathing was heavy. "Of course the magic potion is valuable, but it's barely enough for me to use. Father needs the potion from Tulip Castle, I need it, and maybe Lytton will take a portion of it in the future. There's also Olvera. She will definitely be shameless enough to snatch some of it. With the magical power of the Great Tulip Sprite, the Black Tulip could produce a large amount of magic potions, but there were also many people who were counting on this batch of magic potions. Of course, the Black Tulip business was signed by the 3 siblings. But once the power of the Great Sprite was used, the share that should be turned over to the Count would not be left untouched. At most, Levis would eat up all the increased profits. I'm not as lucky as you. You've got Intermediate World of Warcraft, Black Tulip, Flame Mushroom and even Thorn Potion. You're the only one who has them. It seems that you can't make much money from magic potions, brother. Of course I can't even earn a single share. The money from my other businesses is all spent on magic potions. Do you know that every time I take a bottle of magic potion I feel pain for a long time? You're not an elite Earth Knight yet, so you can't understand the pain and joy of an elite Earth Knight. His expression was almost distorted. So, brother is very short of money. You know the answer. What if I'm willing to share the liquor business with you? List threw out the bait that he had prepared. He was too lazy to continue acting. Levis's exaggerated expression and tone were simply exaggerated performances. He did not put his heart into it at all. He had probably guessed some of the situation when List asked him to taste the liquor. Levis was never a fool. He had been promoted to an Earth Knight in his youth and was known as a genius. If it was an outsider, List might have pretended to be polite. Since they were brothers, he might as well make it clear. Sure enough, hearing List's words, Levis immediately put away his exaggerated acting and put on an eager enthusiasm. What, List, you mean you want to share the liquor brewing technology with brother? Brother has already told me the preciousness of the liquor brewing technology. Before I separate, it doesn't matter who has it. If one day I want to separate, I will give you the liquor brewing technology as soon as possible. My idea is that I will make the liquor, you are responsible for the sales, and we will split the profits in half. After a round of bargaining, the two brothers had basically determined the way of cooperation. Levis would provide protection for the liquor business, provide the raw materials needed for brewing, and be responsible for external sales, accounting for 60% of the profits. List would be responsible for brewing the liquor, accounting for 40% of the profits. List was basically satisfied with the share of 40% and 60%. It was normal for the channel to take a big share, not to mention providing protection. If one day the two brothers really separated, the cooperation would be suspended, and the technology would be shared. The current liquor brewing technology is still under improvement, and it will take some time to really brew qualified liquor. The most important thing is that the brewing equipment is in urgent need of a batch of iron, but Flower Town is extremely short of iron. I hope you can help me solve it. Are you interested in the spoils of this time? Levis touched his chin, knowing that if he wanted to get the liquor business, it was essential. Iron has always been the most sought-after spoils of war. This time I didn't bring back too much iron ore. I don't have much at my disposal. 3,000 pounds of iron ingots, I can't get more. 3,000 pounds, that's about it. Don't think it's too little. 3,000 pounds is enough to make Viscount Trick and Viscount Jonas jealous. By the way, I forgot to ask you, why did Flower Town's flame mushroom stop? List pondered for a moment and replied, I want to store the potion. Don't be surprised, brother. Although my talent is not as good as yours with Ella, I don't want to go further. Even if I fail, I still have to try. List said half-truthfully. No one knew that he was already an elite Earth Knight. What about the black tulip and the potion thorns? The black tulip will still be supplied to you. I also plan to store the potion thorns. That's a pity. It's hard for me to persuade you not to try, just like Elvira. I can't stop her willfulness. But I still hope that you can think about it more. If you change your mind, come to me again. As a brother, you have to believe that I can take advantage of anyone, but I won't take advantage of you. Of course, I firmly believe in this. Then the two talked about the surf sale. With the liquor business as a foundation, no one cared too much. They quickly reached a deal to buy 2,500 serfs at the price of 500 gold coins. I'll give you the gold coins later. As long as they are delivered before the fleet sets off. Levis did not ask List where he got so many gold coins. He was getting more and more confused about his brother. Ignorance and timidity no longer appeared, replaced by shrewdness and generosity. Chapter 239. Gold coins. List didn't have much of this stuff. His current liquidity was only about 100 gold coins. The territory did rely on the flower caravan business to make a lot of money, and taxes were increasing day by day. However, the expenditure of the territory was also growing day by day. List's own food and drink expenses were at least a few dozen gold coins a month. Those strange delicacies were not valuable, and the cost of materials and labor were very cheap. What was valuable was the World of Warcraft meat. He had become a meat-eater who couldn't live without World of Warcraft meat. If it wasn't for the territory that could produce its own potions, his personal consumption would be even more terrifying. The construction of the territory was even more expensive. If Black Horse Island was developed, it would be a huge black hole. At least for a year or two, it would be difficult to see any benefits. The development of Flower Town was basically on the right track, but the cost was definitely not small. It seemed that nearly 9 months of development had cost List at least thousands of gold coins. If there were no smoke missions, he couldn't imagine how many things could be done. So, this time there was a gap of 500 gold coins. List still had to rely on the reward of the smoke mission. After thinking about it, he was going to find the Count tomorrow and exchange mithril for a batch of gold coins. The next day, the sun didn't rise in time, so it looked a little gloomy. The Count had already gotten up and was writing at the desk in the study. He had been very busy these days and needed to sort out the distribution of the spoils. List, you got up early. The Count motioned to List to find a chair to sit on. Didn't Levis pull you to talk about war stories all night? In fact, my brother's eloquence still needs to be cultivated. He is still far from being able to talk all day and night. Well, he really doesn't have the talent of a diplomat. What do you want to drink, red wine or coffee? Chatting with his son, he always felt that the atmosphere would be more stiff if he didn't drink something. Between father and son, they could never reach the level of understanding between mother and daughter. Is there milk? I don't want to drink and I don't like coffee early in the morning. List could no longer live without milk. For the time being, he could not drink the milk of his own dragon breed cows, so he could only drink ordinary milk. When the servant brought the freshly brewed milk, List could clearly feel that the quality of the milk of the Tulip Castle cows was far worse than that of the Flower Town cows. The cows on the dairy farm, even if they didn't become dragon-type cows, had definitely undergone mutation. I've been bathing with flower soap for the past 2 days. It's really good. This industry should bring you a lot of income. The Count said. 2 or 3 gold coins a day. That's about the same as the seafood business back then. But now that the seafood business is about to stop, the profits are not as good as before. The flower soap is temporarily unable to expand to the outer islands due to limited production, causing my funds to be in a very tight state. The development of the Flower Town has already surprised many people, including me, so don't put too much pressure on yourself. Pressure. There was no pressure. List felt that his daily life was really stress-free. He ate, drank, practiced martial arts, rode a horse, walked the dog, played with the elves and patrolled the territory. Occasionally, when he had inspiration, he would let the serfs realize it, or he would follow up on the smoke mission. In addition to being happy, he was also happy. Of course, this degenerate and corrupt life still needs to be low-key. He said in a joking tone, there is still pressure. If I want to achieve my wish of riding a dragon before the age of 30, I need to work hard all the time. Well, the Count was not used to this joke for a while. Don't be too ambitious. List nodded. In fact, I want to become a Sky Knight as soon as possible. I heard my brother talk about your battle with Count Figo. I'm very fascinated. This idea was much more realistic and the Count easily accepted it. I hope that all 4 of you can take the Sky Knight as your goal. Every generation of the Tulip family is pursuing progress. The Knight's enterprising spirit should never stop, and strive to turn pressure into motivation. I understand. Now that I am an adult, the things I used to be ignorant of are now clear. List said, suddenly remembering something. By the way, Father, in addition to bringing a batch of Flower Town specialties and delicacies to Tulip Castle, I have also specially prepared a gift for you and my brother. Oh, what gift? A telescope. List took out a pair of well-made telescopes from his pocket, handed them to the Count, and instructed the Count how to use them. This is a pair of stretchable monoculars. You put this small eyepiece in front of your eyes. Yes, that's it, and then point the large objective lens out of the window. When the Count did so, he was shocked at first glance. Oh my God, the sea of tulip flowers seems to be in front of me. You can pull the telescope's objective lens out. Yes, it can be pulled out longer. It's getting closer. Can they move? Is this magic? The Count held a pair of binoculars and kept looking at things in the distance. He was very excited. I see Silva. He's holding a cigarette in his hand. He's looking for a place to smoke. It's a handmade paper cigarette. It's made with fireweed, not fire. Holding the telescope, the Count began to peep. Silva, the deputy butler outside the castle, did not know that his little action of smoking was seen by the Count. The excited Count could not stop for a while. List was very satisfied with the effect of the telescope, but Silva's smoking made him suddenly think. Should he invent matches? The ignition tools in this world are the fire grass that can be rubbed, and the fire folding that is configured with firegrass as raw materials, which are far less convenient than matches. Lighters are more advanced and more convenient. But List doesn't think he can invent a lighter, the technical content is too high. As for matches, there is no technical content. The only problem is that the match head uses phosphorus as an ignition material. If he remembered correctly, it uses red phosphorus. Red phosphorus and a substance that can make red phosphorus rub to ignite fire are applied to the match head and the matchbox. When used, it is rubbed. When not used, it is called a safety match. Phosphorus? I still have a lot of knowledge about phosphorus. List thought silently. First of all, rural farming is indispensable for a fertilizer called phosphorus fertilizer. Secondly, it is said that the discovery of phosphorus element originated from alchemy. A guy who dreamed of alchemy accidentally refined phosphorus from urine. Thirdly, it was learned in middle school geography textbooks that there is a country called Nauru where bird droppings piled up and produced phosphorus rock. Finally, the legendary ghost fire is said to be formed by phosphorus and human bones burning in the air. So, if you want to get phosphorus, you have to deal with feces and urine? List was helpless. He didn't want to be a TFBO. It is best to find bird droppings. Find an island with many seabirds, maybe there will be phosphorus rock. Even if I can't get phosphorus, I can use it as fertilizer, phosphorus fertilizer. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.